Hey guys, welcome back.
Hey guys, brand new podcast.
Hey, wait a minute. It's my podcast.
Oh, sorry, I forgot.
Enjoy. Thank you guys for coming on to talk about the subject. I've had so many, I can't tell you how many emails that have people have sent saying, will you please talk about fertility issues? Please talk about fertility issues. So I know you both have fertility issues. So
yeah.
I got pregnant.
Yay for us.
I know, right? Not so much, but I got pregnant on the pill. So clearly I don't have fertility issues.
Yeah, way to go, Ethel.
I think Bert Kreischer's got like super sperm. So I'd been on the pill a long time, but
Or maybe you have super eggs or super ovaries.
well, they just showed
Fertile
up at
Myrtle.
that point, right? Because they'd been with me the whole time. The new element was the super sperm or something. So
You got pregnant with both girls while on the pill?
no, the second one wasn't planned, but I was like, hey, let's have another one, and we got pregnant like within 30 days. So
A little
So
tip,
you guys
don't tell people that are infertile that.
I know, because well, when you look at the science of how a person even gets pregnant, it's a wonder anybody.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Well, and
This
when
is
you
a short
go
window.
through fertility issues, you learn. There's so much more I know now than before about what it really takes in order for pregnancy to happen, and it's fascinating. And I always say, like with IVF and all this stuff, it's like if you take the emotion out of it and you actually just look at the science, it is a fascinating miracle that
Right.
babies can actually be born. Like what has to happen? It's crazy.
So that is the main difference between Jen and I in this whole process is she has jumped in and learned all about the science of it.
Right.
I take science one day at a time at sort of like one process at a time. Like, okay, what do I need to know for this step right now?
Right.
And I'm 100% emotion based. And
Isn't
so
that
it's like I've
interesting?
had conversations with Jen about both of our process and everything, and you just rattle on all these statistics and scientific facts and what are you doing and processes, and I'm like, yeah, I tried that, but I just sort of crossed my fingers and hoped it worked. You know, it's like, well, like I sort of, because the more I got involved in it, the more I made myself crazy,
Right.
and my doctors are like, you need to stop. Like he's like, you're just
Right.
making it worse for yourself, and I felt like my tubes were tying themselves. Like I was making myself so stressed out, it was like impossible for me to even like conceive or try to get pregnant because it was just so overwhelming.
That's interesting because my therapist would say that I'm totally detached, and that's why I get involved with the science. Excuse me, more than the emotion.
Yeah.
Because it's so much easier for me to say, okay, I understand this process. What's the context? What needs to happen? Like,
Right.
how does this work?
Right.
Then actually sit down and say, this is something that's so huge. It's like one of the biggest things we
huge.
do in our lives.
Totally.
And, you know, I've been in this game for a while. It's been like 5 years for me. So it's like, you know, it's so much easier to just detach from it and be like, there's no emotion here. Just so like look at the next little task that has to happen. And like, that's you check that task off the box and then like we move on to the next thing. Like
Yeah.
I don't
Right.
see baby at the end. I see like, okay, a shot or a procedure or
see.
a like pregnancy test or whatever it is, like those little tactical things. Like that's as far as my brain will let me get. And I think it's probably a defense mechanism.
No, but I can see how that would be. I think because my defense mechanism is head in the sand. Like it's been 9 years for me.
That's
Like,
a long time.
A long time. And so we started trying when I was 32. We started trying naturally. Like 31, 32, we started just trying naturally. And about 2 years in, we went and saw a fertility doctor. And, you know, they check all my hormone levels and they're like, okay, they equated it saying my hormone level was as if my foot was on the gas pedal. It wasn't pushing it down and I wasn't producing the follicles and like the eggs during ovulation. It was just
Right.
like, they're all like, you have a low egg count and you got to do it now. And so we started working and it became less about the science for me and like, okay, what do I have to do right now? Like,
Right.
what are my odds? It became more of like
So they made it urgent.
very
They made
urgent.
it feel very
It was like, you
urgent.
have this window of time and you have to do it now.
Wow.
And so it became, and then plus you have the financial aspect to it. And at the time it was like, you know, we're idiots. We weren't saving all of our money for a future. We were just spending like, let's go on vacation, and destination weddings don't help. Then you're traveling all the time because
Right.
everyone's getting married. So it was like any money we had, we were just putting towards fertility. And they put me on the most hardcore drugs out of the gate. They're all Gonalef. I'm like, what about Clomid? They're all, no, we're beyond Clomid. And I was like, I just want to take a pill. And they're like, no, you need to shoot yourself up all the time. And it was just, I should have gone the route where I would arm myself with information. Instead, I just tried to just maintain some sort of normalcy by not freaking out. And in doing so, I didn't want to overwhelm myself with information, which in hindsight, I wish I would have known more going in. Because like you, it's like I did acupuncture and I did teas and I kept going the next step. And the more I realized, the more I was doing, they're just like, relax. And I'm like, stop telling people to relax. I'm telling a fat person, be skinny tomorrow.
Right?
You're like, it's not going to change overnight. I have anxieties about this whole thing.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
So it's like, I get the defense mechanism. You just kind of like, your body goes into like hyperdrive. Like, how do I react to this and what do I do next? And in your
Right.
case, you wanted to know more. What's
Right.
the next thing?
Well, and a lot of that information comes from the process. So like I didn't learn everything right up front. It's like I learned it by doing so many different things over the years. And every time I did it, I'm just like naturally curious. So I want to understand like, what is this? Why am I doing it? Not what are the results or the odds, but just like how is my body supposed to respond? Does it respond that way? So like I just find myself asking a lot of questions, but I do that in life for everything. So like I just want to, I'm like a sponge for information. And so I think that's the way my brain actually just works.
It is. And also, I know from my years of therapy that that makes you feel like you have some kind of control.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah. So I have some control over my own process. Even if at the end of the day it's not working, at least I've had some control. And I think I'm similar to that too. I am super curious and I am a student of life. I read constantly and I'm always trying to learn and figure stuff out. And for people with that mindset, I couldn't just be emotional about it. There's no way I could do that. The emotion would drive me into action, which
Yeah.
would be learning.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think it's what fascinates me is, you have to be relaxed to get pregnant. They say, from what I hear.
It's so stressful.
And it is so fucking stressful.
I mean, it takes like the fun out of sex. It's like you're like starting saying, okay, Tuesday, Wednesday of this week is my window. Let's make it happen. Be home at this time. We're doing this.
And is there anything they told you had to do to have sex? Like, do you have to have sex on your back? Do you have to have sex standing up? Do you have to stand on your head?
Did you put your legs over your head?
Yeah. So
I still do that.
me too. And actually, interestingly, because when you have when you have,
I'm trying to keep it all in.
Or before,
Yeah,
or during. Anyway, yeah, whichever, however it goes.
whatever's fun for you. If, by the way, as we're talking, I guess I think this is like regular vernacular for the two of us. So if you have questions, like feel free to jump in.
Don't worry.
And I don't know if it's helpful for us to like back up at all, but to your point about putting your legs up, when you have an IUI, which is when it's I think it's intrauterine insemination.
I wrote it down.
Yeah.
It's,
So it's
intrauterine
basically the turkey baster.
intrauterine
Insemination.
Insemination, yeah.
So it's basically the turkey baster method, which is, your husband or partner takes the sperm and they spin it and then they take the good stuff and they put it in a thing and they
super swimmers out of it.
squeeze it up and, just right up there. So
To bypass the cervix and go straight in.
yeah.
It goes straight
Because,
into the uterus,
it takes
right?
it takes sperm in regular pregnancy. I don't know the actual number. It takes sperm like 12 or 24 hours or something to
get
go
up there.
Literally
Are
from
you
like
kidding?
It lives
No,
inside you for 24 hours. You can get pregnant the next day.
Right, but it takes it a
Holy,
really
I didn't
long
know
time
that.
to swim.
Yeah.
To swim from like the point that it goes in, like the man ejaculates inside and it goes to your uterus,
Yeah.
which is about this much space.
Yeah.
I'm holding up like what, like an
Like
inch
2
and a half?
inches?
Yeah, inch and a
It
half, 2
takes
inches.
like, I think 12 hours or 20 hours for it to swim that far, which is insane.
That's insane.
So the
Yeah.
turkey baster, they just, skip the cervix and they stick the sperm in and they do it. They trigger your ovulation so that the egg comes down
That
the
trigger
fallopian
shot is
tube.
hideous.
Yeah, I mean, it's all
What's
pretty-
hideous?
The trigger shot. It's like a giant needle, and they do it before they do the IUI inception.
Where do they
Or
shoot you? In your
like,
butt? Or, okay.
In like your, it was your butt or it's like your hip? I can't
I
remember.
just
It's not in your
stomach.
vagina, right?
Stomach.
No.
Okay, good.
It's your
Mine's
stomach.
just
No,
stomach.
it was your stomach.
Yeah.
The trigger shot is your stomach, but
Yeah.
it's this giant fat needle, and it just basically surges all your hormones, so everything you got gets shot down to meet the sperm.
Right.
And, like,
Well,
when
it
comes in.
also, because when a woman's body naturally ovulates, the egg pops out. So we'll probably talk about follicles a lot,
Yeah.
which is like basically
They're little tiny hair
there are
like.
these- That's exactly right. And so every woman each month, I think, you create a certain amount of follicles on both of your ovaries. And then usually there's a dominant follicle where an egg grows inside of it. And then that egg goes down. When you ovulate, you get an LH surge. Your egg goes down the fallopian tube into the uterus and where it awaits to be fertilized. And like
Right.
that's how pregnancy
how that
happens.
works, right.
But when you're doing it with science, you have to regulate it all and they have to be able to control it, because if they're going to do this turkey baster thing, they only want to put the sperm in when the egg is there waiting for
Right,
it. So
right.
they trigger you, I think, like 36 hours in advance. You take the shot and then the shot surges your LH and it forces that egg to pop out of the follicle so that they know when they go up with the sperm that the egg is there waiting.
Right.
So that's the IUI method. But my point in bringing this up is that putting your legs up, I don't know if your doctor does this, but when you do an IUI, mine like puts the table like up. So like
Invert
you're leaning,
it.
Mine
you're,
did that a little
leaning
bit
back-
too.
You're like leaning backwards.
And you have to lay there for like 10, 15
and you lay
minutes
for 10
after.
or 15 minutes. So I'm like, okay, so there's something to this. There's something to either putting your legs up or putting a pillow under your back.
Right.
You know,
Inverting yourself.
Yeah.
inverting yourself in some
Might
way.
as well let
some
gravity
people,
help.
Yes.
Yeah, let
I mean,
gravity
some people
help.
will like do a handstand or a headstand or whatever, and they like swear by it. But I don't know. I think
I'm
all
not
of
that
it is
talented.
myth. I mean, it's all myth. There's no science to any of that.
Okay, so I have a funny kicker about the IUIs.
Yeah.
So when I was doing that, we did technically we paid for 4 rounds, but we only did 3 because the fourth
Of
round.
IUI.
Yeah, we had the 4th round. Our doctor like worked in tandem, and the second doctor, I hated that guy. He was such a dick. He had like no bedside manner. He like we came in to do it that day, and he does like the follicle check, and they stick like a giant wand up your cooch, and they're like, let's check and see how they're looking. And he comes in and goes, oh, these are duds. And I was like,
What a
we just
dick.
paid all this and did all this. And he's like, this is a dud. It's not going to work this time. We're like, thanks for that really
How
lovely.
about a refund?
Yeah. Or how about like a little more gentler touch, dickhead? You know what we
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're doing it, and they were recommending this because I had hostile mucus.
What is hostile
What?
mucus?
That's what I was like.
This
I'm like,
is new for
excuse
me.
me, I'm a hostile mucus.
I'm picturing Pac-Man in your
yeah.
uterus. Is it Pac-Man in your uterus?
Yes, it's packed. It's basically that's it. It's like the mucus that I'm generating down in my lady regions was attacking my husband's sperm.
What?
So it never even made it. Like once it would get past the cervix or get to the cervix, the mucus down there was already killing it off.
When did they figure that out?
Round
how? How do you
one,
test
they
for that?
like they check everything, and like apparently it has to do with your pH balance, so it changes like every month and every cycle. So 1 month it could be super hostile, the next month it could be fine and compatible. And
How
I was like,
insane is that?
Never heard of this.
I was like, of course, I'm
amazing.
killing my husband's sperm before he makes it to me. Like, of course, I am like coming full attack mode.
Meanwhile, by the
Yeah,
way,
right.
let's talk about the fact that it's like hostile mucus. It's like the woman's
Yeah. We're
mucus.
the-
Cervical
hostile.
mucus is killing the man's sperm because like the man's sperm is like perfect.
His was super sperm.
And,
They
like-
kept telling me how, my husband's like flexing. And I'm like, I'm a failure. I suck. My body's attacking you.
I have hostile mucus.
I know.
My vagina has teeth.
Exactly.
This is terrible.
No, and I'm just picturing like Phoebe
Pac-Man.
Seymour. Like,
Exactly.
you know, it's like little
Like
shop of
little
horrors
Pac-Man,
down there
little shop
coming
of
after him. I'm
The
like,
sperms are
sorry.
the dots.
Yeah.
Just Oh, that's so crazy.
And yeah, and then so after the first couple rounds, they were like, look, they stopped even checking. They're like, well, we're just going to bypass it anyway, so it's not important to do an extra test.
Right.
So they're like, let's just stop, you know. But I was like, great, I have hostile mucus too, rad. Because then everything else was unexplained. Like it was just low egg and follicle count, like low count. But I was like, are you kidding me? That's the dumbest thing ever.
But
Well,
you'd
the
think if they stimulate the egg to drop, even if you have low egg count,
only takes
the
one egg.
Exactly. It takes one
egg.
Right.
So then why doesn't, what's it called? IUI work? Why doesn't it work?
Well, IUI, they say once you're in kind of this unexplained, they call it unexplained infertility.
Right.
My infertility is actually, there was an explanation for it, but then it's kind of shifted.
I'm
But-
unexplained.
Yeah.
So
which we can back
Yeah,
up
yeah.
in a minute, but what were we saying? Oh, with the
the
IUI
why
doesn't
it
work. So it's not just, so the sperm can fertilize the egg, but then the embryo then still has to implant into the lining of the uterus, and then it has to, I don't know, sit there for a couple days. Then it forms like the placenta around that
It has to
embryo.
stick.
It has to stick.
Right.
So like, and there's no way, I mean, there's so much that we know now that we didn't know a long time ago. This frontier, it started in like 1981. So
Right.
it's very new in
But
terms
they
of
give you
science.
these estrogen pills that are like horse pills that are suppositories. You have to stick up your vagina also.
Are you thinking about the progesterone?
Yes.
Yes.
Or did I say estrogen? I meant
Yeah.
progesterone. Excuse me. Yeah,
The
it's been a while.
estrogen are
It's been
usually like
years
those
since I've done
little
this
baby
process.
blue ones.
Oh, I had like giant pink ones that came in like a tampon insert.
Well, that's the other thing too, is there's so many different forms of the medicine. Like
Yeah.
you can take estrogen by pill, you could take it by shot in your butt, you can do it like all these different ways. And
Right.
you know,
Don't they have a lotion?
I don't know.
For people like with thyroid problems, get that.
Oh, okay.
Because that your body absorbs it that way.
Got it.
I like. Did you have the pill where you put it up and it's?
You're
but-
talking about the progesterone with
progesterone
the
pill.
suppository. No, my doctor's office likes to compound their pills. They're $4 a pill. You have to do 4 a day.
Jesus
and there is
Christ,
no,
hold on.
There is no insurance coverage on them, and
No, nothing.
there is
Nothing's covered.
no applicator. So you literally have to take this little pill. It's like a gel cap.
Yeah.
And you have to like OB. That's the way it could be. Like you stick it up with your finger into your vagina, and you have to do it 4 times a day.
But does it then like
and each
make
pill
you
costs $4.
cream all day and like you're
Oh, yeah,
just, like,
so then you have to put, like, a
you have to
liner in and-
you're basically like
and you're like, it's like
full-blown,
coming out
like,
in like chalk.
Yes.
Out all day.
You people
day.
want
And you
babies
sit in
bad.
it.
This
No,
sounds terrible.
You're
You
literally
sit in
like
it.
creaming your pants all day. You're
That's
you're like, you need a
crazy.
diaper.
You sit
You're
in
just
it.
somped. And you're sitting, and
Yeah.
you feel shitty because you're swollen and you're puffy and you have 1,000
And you're-
hormones surging through your
yeah.
body. And you're just like, great. Now I'm wearing a liner or a pad.
With lotion coming
With
out of
lotion,
the body.
with
Chalk.
straight
It's
up chalk.
chalk.
Well, you had
It's
I had like
chalk.
lotion chalk.
Mine was
lotion.
like chalk.
Yeah.
So,
Because
but
my-
relax. So
yeah,
that you
but,
can get
you know,
pregnant. So
you're
there's
glowing.
Oh my
It's
god!
such a magical
Yeah, and you're
time.
so sexy with that white stuff
Oh
coming
my
out.
God. It's such a wonderful time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, baby,
it's all
yeah.
out of pocket. Nothing's covered. And like you'd go and like you'd be like, I'd be like, okay, I'll take, and my doctors kept upping the ante every time with
Yeah,
more
yeah.
Gonalef.
Yeah.
And with each time, I'd like, and there was always one pharmacy in Beverly Hills would have it.
Oh, yeah.
What
It was
is Gonalef? Is that
Gonalef is it's one of the hormones and it's injectable. You have to put it in your stomach every morning during a certain period of time. And like your whole stomach's bruised and you're just shooting yourself up all the time.
Right.
But it pushes, it's
It
like,
stimulates the
it stimulates
eggs to grow
the eggs to
inside
grow
your
more. So you like
follicles.
get these
I
big
see.
juicy eggs. And
Okay.
And more
I'd
than
go-
one. When you take it,
Yeah.
it overstimulates your ovaries so that instead of having one dominant egg grow, you'll have eggs grow in many of your follicles. And
Right.
they use it a lot. I mean, they use it for all types of fertility, but it's used also specifically in IVF.
Yeah.
And there's another drug called Follistim, and they're apparently the same drug.
Yeah.
They're just two different brand names. And those are the two drugs that you take as part of the IVF protocol.
Like I said, she's very knowledgeable. She's good at that.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
I took the shot. And she's like, which one and how many? Like, I'm like, I don't know. I put
CCs?
75.
No, but what's really interesting about that medication, although I feel like we really just jumped right into this, and there's probably so much we could back up.
I mean, we
into.
could
No,
circle
don't
back or
worry. This
whatnot.
is totally fine. It's fine.
That medication, it's like there's a standard amount that they'll put you on, like
Yeah.
right when you start. They'll do like 225 milligrams is like I think it's milligrams. I'm not sure what the measurement is.
Yeah, I was like, yes.
That
I
you
don't know.
take, and then some people will go up to 300 or 400. Like if you are older or if you have like less egg production, they'll up the ante on it.
I was on that.
Right.
But what's really interesting, so I've done 3 rounds of IVF, but
That's crazy.
Wait,
That's
you've
so,
done okay. IVF is in vitro.
That's
Yes,
right.
Which means
fertilization.
they take the egg
they take
out
eggs
of
and they
your
pull
body,
them out and they make
Right.
embryos outside your body.
in
Yes.
a petri dish,
Yes,
so to speak,
exactly.
and then put it back in.
Well,
And
yes,
that's-
but
yes.
IVF is divided into 2 parts. It's
Okay.
there's the retrieval and there's the transfer. Those are like
Okay.
so the first half is the retrieval, which is you shoot your body up with these drugs, you overstimulate your follicles to get as many eggs as possible with these drugs. And then they go in, you go under, you have surgery, and they go in with like this little needle and they pull the eggs
How
off
do
of
they
your
even
ovaries.
see them?
it's insane. And you watch it
And-
on screen.
Yeah, no, well, because this you're out.
Yeah, this year,
Yeah.
but then because
When you do
my
the
doctor
transfer, you
showed
see
me.
it
He's
on
all, this is
screen.
what we did.
Yeah, yeah.
Like he
They
showed
have
me
pictures
after.
of
So you
that.
did it too?
Yeah, I did a round of
my
IVF.
goodness.
Yeah. So that's
And it's a minimum of $25,000
That's crazy.
out of pocket.
Yeah.
Okay, so they go in with a
they
needle,
and
they
they
gather.
take them out, and then they put them in a petri dish, and then there's this thing called ICSI, which is ICSY. It's like it's an acronym.
Yes.
And basically, they take the best sperm, the dominant one, they shove them in one at a time into your eggs.
With a needle, they like insert
I
it.
don't know how they do that.
No, and this is the
ICSI.
time when they can also design your baby. They can they can do a boy chromosome. They can pick and choose what
Yes,
you want.
we had a friend that went through this, that gathered 10 eggs and had 10 boys made.
Yeah, you can do that.
So, and then had them reinserted at
Yes.
appropriate times and had 2 baby boys.
But I don't know if you can't really change the gender.
No?
but you
No,
can
yeah, you can pick which ones are the
once you get further along in the process, you can have them tested and have the gender tested and know what you
see.
have.
Yes, excuse
you
me. I
can't
see.
change the DNA of the sperm and the egg.
Got it.
And you don't really know a lot of that stuff until the embryo is made.
Right.
So
I stand corrected. You are absolutely
So
right.
just out of luck, I guess, then they
Yes,
had 10
that's
boys.
right.
You
Which
wanna-
is crazy
If you
right
have
there.
a lot of follicles and you can, like you produce a lot, and they make all those embryos, and you have a lot more to choose from.
Right.
right.
But they insert the
So
sperm
then they
into
take
the egg,
well,
right?
if you pay extra for ICSI, they take the best sperm. I don't know how they know the best little one, and they
Bicep check.
That's right
On the sperm.
Totally.
Did you do that?
Yeah, because ours is like part of this like packet. It's like it was kind of just like part of the package. So you shove them in one by one instead of just letting them swim in a petri
Yeah,
dish and finding each other.
Yep.
And then they see what fertilizes. So by the way, let me back up. Some of the eggs that they take out, some of them are underdeveloped, and those just go in the trash. So like
Those are the
you'll start
duds.
with a batch of like follicles. So you start, let's just say you start with a batch of 10 follicles. You may grow 8 eggs. You may get 6 out. 4 of them might be good. 3 might fertilize. Then once they fertilize, they have to grow, and they check them on day 3 and day 5, and they're supposed to grow symmetrically.
And 10 is a lucky number. 10 is great. If you can retrieve 10, like a lot of people do like 20. Like if you're a healthy person, you'll have 20 follicles.
It also depends on your age. And
like when I did IVF, they were stoked because they got 5 out of me. They're like, oh my God, we got 5. This is incredible. And then of those 5, one was good and the other one was a shower, kind of a grower. Like, so they're like, okay, we think about 1.5 and we're going to do both those.
And did you test them? PGS test them?
I didn't, because that was more. Everything was more money, more money, more money.
Yeah, that's another
like
$2,000.
thousands. It was 5,000.
Wait, test them for what?
So that's so once they start growing, they check them on day 5, day 6, and day 7
For symmetrical growth.
Symmetrical growth, and to basically see if they're viable embryos.
To weed out the ones that aren't going to.
To weed out the ones that are like have a hairy eyeball, and then those go in the trash.
Yeah.
And then once they determine, they call them blastocysts. So basically meaning
What a word.
a blastocyst is an embryo that they believe to be viable.
Okay.
Then if you want to pay extra money, you can biopsy the blastocysts before they go in the freezer or before they get inserted into your body. And then you can have that DNA sent, I don't know if it's DNA, whatever the biopsy material is, sent off to these clinics that do genetic testing on those embryos. And they test for
Down syndrome, or
all kinds of stuff. Also, that's when you can find out the sex, if you want to.
Right.
Apparently now there's like, you can find eye color and all this other stuff that like, but people are like, it's very controversial because obviously there's like designer babies, and that's, whatever. That's not what we're talking about today.
Gross.
Right. But so
You'd be surprised how many
then
people do that.
Yeah.
from there, you get these results of like, are your embryos, are they healthy? Are they viable? And then like really what you have.
Right.
But they say that doesn't supersede still doing like it once you get pregnant, a CVS or a amnio, that there's that it tests for certain things, but it doesn't test for everything. So like if you want to actually go through regular testing, you would still do that again once you get pregnant. But at least you're further along in the process, and those embryos are really healthy,
safer, healthier pregnancy out of the gate.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've done so IVF is broken up into 2 parts. There's the retrieval, which I just explained, that gets you can go all the way through to this PGS testing or not. It's a choice.
Yep.
And then you know what you have to work with. And then there's the second half of it, which is a transfer, when you actually take those embryos and then you put them, however many you want, back into your body and see if your body can implant them.
Right.
So some people will be like, oh, I did IVF, and it's like, it's such a broad term. And like, I always want, like someone says, I did an unsuccessful run of IVF. Well, is it unsuccessful because you didn't get any eggs? Is it unsuccessful because you got eggs and they didn't implant? Is it unsuccessful because like you couldn't even get to the place of the surgery to take the eggs out because nothing grew? Like there's so many steps in the process where it's like, when someone just says IVF, it doesn't mean like I did this process from like start to pregnancy.
Right.
It's like there's all these little things that kind of happen along the way.
It's very broad.
You asked me that question when I told you I'd done IVF. I remember at Cottie's house, you said to me, you're like, oh, why was it unsuccessful? Like, and you start asking me those questions because I just said, oh, it didn't take. And you're like, well, why? And I'm like, well, I had a low egg count, and then it, and then
I had you transferred it.
Transferred it,
and it didn't work,
and it didn't stick. And it was like, but I was like so impressed. I remember leaving there and telling my husband Rio. I remember telling Rio, like, oh my God, Jen is so knowledgeable of all this, and she's really done her homework. And I don't think I lack knowledge of it.
We've been in the game for such a long time that we've just done a lot. Like, I'm not on the computer. I don't Google anything. By the way, there's no resources for this.
There's none.
There's not like a website you can go to and read about all this that has like definitions of what these acronyms mean, or like if you want to understand, like if you're going through something and you have a symptom and you want to Google it, like there's truly nothing out there. It will take you to like
it's like
a fertility clinic.
It's like a fertility chat room.
Why don't you start one?
Yes, it's totally
no, but you have so much
living this life for longer.
Well, I was like in the process of it, I found so many personal blogs about fertility where there's like weird like, and I have no idea how to deal with a chat room. Like that to me is like old like DOS computer. Like let's go to the chat room. And I remember like just Googling like just saying, infertility or like struggles infertility or depression infertility, like just pushing, like just starting Googling everything, and it would bring me these weird blogs, not weird, but like just blogs and chat rooms. And I started reading things. Actually, one of the best things I've ever read, and I post, and I'm not a big Facebook sharer, and I posted on Facebook. I should find this article and send it to you. It's called "How Not to Be a Dick to Your Infertile Friend."
Oh, I would love to read
It is.
that.
I would love that
fantastic.
too. Well, tell
It
me
is-
what it said.
Well, it had these really great things like, okay, you know, like don't, and I changed the way how I talk to people now because of it. Like if you have friends, you go, when are you getting married? That is about as annoying to a single person as when you having kids
Right.
to someone who's struggling trying to start a family.
Right.
You know, so it's like, I don't say that to people anymore.
Right.
I'm like I'll ask them, are you in a relationship? Or like, you know, I don't say when are you getting married. I go, cool, that works for you.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know what their deal is. No. Also, when you're like, when someone tells you like, oh, I'm pregnant, and they're like all like stoked about it, you can easily say back to them, you know, I'm really happy for you. Like, this is great. Congratulations. I just need to step away for a minute and mourn my own loss real quick.
Yeah.
Like, you
Right.
need to forgive me. Like, and there's a time and place to say that or whatnot, but
Sure.
it really mentions like, it's okay to say to the person, you know, I'm really happy for you and I want to celebrate this.
Right.
I just need a minute.
Right.
I just need a minute to just pull myself together for my own
Process,
sanity,
for
my
what's
own process,
yeah.
to process and be happy for you.
Totally.
And that's what's really hard too, because it's like we're not monsters,
Totally,
but
no.
it's really, really hard. I mean, I've been in this for.
No, I'm a monster. I begrudge a lot of people.
Well, I put a moratorium on baby showers. I put a
yeah.
moratorium on kids' birthdays unless the kid knows my name and knows who I am. I don't go
I
to.
go to them all the time.
Oh, I don't. We put a moratorium on them. Don't do it.
I just went
because
to
what
one
winds up happening
Sunday.
is, and we have so many. We have friends with the most wonderful children that are in our lives, but like you go to these birthday parties with kids that people have kids under 5, and you are like, we're the only couple that doesn't have children, and then we just
Everyone's
sit
saying
there,
yeah.
and we're just like, it just feels like, you know, we're just we don't fit in, or like our lives have not moved forward in this way despite trying. And also like plenty of people who so I was pregnant 5 years ago and had a miscarriage, which wreaked havoc on my body, which is part of the reason that we're in this
Did you
situation
get pregnant
now.
naturally too? Just,
Yes, I got pregnant naturally. Not super easy, not like Leanne easy, like on the pill. But you know, like we like not tried for, I don't know, 6 months, maybe even a year. But it was like the trying, not trying thing.
Yeah.
And then I like read, okay, no, you have to do it within like I didn't even know about like peeing on a stick and ovulation and all that.
Do you track your ovulation now?
Well, now I just know my body so well
Yeah.
that I know when I'm ovulating. Like I
Yeah.
see,
You can
you
feel
know,
it and, like,
cervical
you-
mucus and whatever. Sorry, it's like,
No,
I guess we're getting
say-
graphic
say
here.
that,
I mean,
because I
yeah.
don't think-
I
Wait, so
right.
you're-
No,
No,
go
please.
back to your pregnancy. Sorry.
Well,
Yeah,
but when you're ovulating, your mucus discharge changes,
Yes,
correct?
and it's
Yeah.
like sticky. It's like
It's sticky
like
and
putty,
yeah, like-
Yeah.
clear.
It's
Yeah.
hostile.
And it goes,
It's hostile. Mine's hostile. I don't know about
It's
you.
hostile to my
Mine's
underwear.
lovely.
It may not be hostile to sperm,
Yeah,
but my
that's
underwear
right.
is like, are you kidding me?
That's right. Totally.
Yes. And your ovulation window is how long?
It's hard to say. So like they'll say you have like an ovulation, like it's like 5 days, but there's like the lead up to it.
Right.
And there's like the day you ovulate, and then like the day after is when you're supposed to be really fertile. So it's really confusing.
Right.
Do you do the
Because-
ovulation test where you pee on
I
the
used
sticks?
to.
And you got positive results from this.
Yeah.
I never got a positive ovulation test
Huh.
for years. And my doctors are like I'd be peeing on a stick and I'm like, I peed before I came here and the ovulation stick is telling me I'm not ovulating. He's like, I'm looking at your blood results right now and I'm looking like up inside you with my wand and you're ovulating. And I'm like,
So
everything's
interesting.
telling me I'm not. And he's like, but the science is telling you are.
Right. I wonder what that is.
I don't know,
Because
but
they don't
that
test it. It
messes
tests
with
for
you.
certain hormones.
It's that damn hostile shit you
Yeah.
got
It's
going
a
on
hostile
there.
shit.
It was,
I'm
it was
sorry you
it was
miscarried.
like it was like jamming the radar. Maybe I don't know. That's really weird.
Yeah. One thing, I also got pregnant in 2017
Okay.
and
Wait, that's 2 years ago.
yeah, I actually went straight.
Naturally?
Yeah. I was out of the blue. I think we conceived after a U2 concert.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm like,
Bono,
okay,
man.
Bono and
He's
the Edge are making it happen.
He's an ovulation
Yeah.
trigger.
I didn't think we had kind of like, we didn't think that ship had sailed, but we just thought if we were going to get pregnant, it was going to be through medical intervention or we'd have to adopt and then I was like not feeling well. And we went to, and okay, this is the worst. It was his birthday and we went to the concert and then to celebrate his birthday, it was his 40th, Rio's. We went to Vegas and then to the Grand Canyon and then Sedona. And I kept feeling like I was gonna get my period.
Great trip.
Oh, it was amazing. I highly recommend it. Sedona is beautiful. Okay, so I kept thinking I'm going to get my period while we're on vacation, and I didn't want my period. So I took the pill, and
What?
I like started taking the pill just for those like 2 weeks leading up to the vacation and on vacation, so I wouldn't get my period while we were there. And I didn't feel well the entire time. Unbeknownst to me, I was pregnant the entire time
While you were taking the pill.
while I was taking the pill. And my doctor said he doesn't think that makes any, he's like, no, that I don't think that has anything to do with it.
Because the pill just suppresses your ovulation.
Yes. But I was already pregnant. So he's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I went on vacation, all stuff, and then I went and traveled for work, and I still didn't get my period. And I was like, what's going on? I came home and I'm like, I'm just going to take a test. Took a test and it came up positive, and I was like freaking out. Went straight to the doctor.
Were you happy?
Yeah, I was like crying. I was like ecstatic. I was like, this is unbelievable. I'm like, I didn't believe it. I was like, it was more just like, oh my God, like, are you kidding me?
After all that.
But then I also
that,
thought, I was just in Nashville for a week for work, like drinking, and I took the pill. Like, did I destroy myself? Like, what is going on? I made an appointment that day, went to the doctor. They did a pregnancy test. They're like, yeah, you're pregnant. And I had follow-up appointments. So for like a week and a half, I was pregnant, and we were like so happy and we were so ecstatic. And I was like 6 weeks along. And then I started spotting, and I was at work, and I went to my boss. I'm like, I'm fine. I need to go home. I have some personal health issue I have to deal with, and I can't be here right now because I just wanted to be at home. I went home, and that weekend I miscarried. And it was just like, I just remember like going to the doctor, and the doctor's like, do you need time? All this stuff. We're like, we got pregnant. Like we tried to turn around and be like, that is like a miracle in itself.
Yeah.
Like that is the upside, because I had never been pregnant. And I was like, I know now I'm capable of getting pregnant. Now I just have to like do everything in my power to make it stick.
Right.
So it's like, I know if and we're actually talking about going back to the doctor and using donor eggs. So donor eggs is where you use someone else's eggs and my husband's sperm, and then they put that up inside me.
Right.
They inseminate me with so if I have low quality and not bringing the eggs, I can use someone with higher quality, younger, more attractive eggs. Better
Designer eggs.
Yeah, designer eggs, the better skill set, and hopefully athletic, and a really defined jawline and
Someone
small
with
waist.
great thighs.
Yeah. Like all the qualities I wish I had.
Bikini body.
Bikini body.
Right.
And use that. But that's also like you pay for IVF and you're paying for their IVF.
Wow.
So it's like really expensive. So that is our next conversation.
Did you look into the mini IVF thing we talked about?
Okay,
I just have a feeling about this for you.
I know.
Wait, what is in-
Okay,
wait,
yes.
what is
Talk
that?
about that.
There's so much. I know before we started this, I was like, this is going to be like 40 hours of footage for you to
we got
to
all
edit.
night long.
There's
Bert's got
so
the kids all night
much
long.
Jen has some really,
information.
really great information and stuff she reached out to me about.
There's no time limit on this podcast. I will be here till midnight, and the people listening are happy to listen. And if they don't, they'll turn it off, and that's
God, that's
okay.
gonna be like-
Hey, I don't have any sponsors to take care of. This is just us talking. I want
LaCroix.
all of it.
Red wine and LaCroix are
Yes.
responsible.
All of
Right.
it. I don't have much more red, but I can get you some
That's
white and
okay.
some rosé.
Yeah, that's good. We're equal opportunity.
But please don't think that. Just
Yes,
let
no,
it go.
I'm just saying there's just so much
Yeah, I
information.
know, let it go.
And
I
then there's
got it.
information, there's the personal stuff, there's
Yeah,
the stories,
totally.
there's everything. But anyway, so a friend of mine told me about this
This is
recently.
incredible, actually.
This story is crazy, right? I don't know if I even
You
told
did
you the
tell
whole
me.
story.
And this is like where I'm like, I want to do this, but I have my head in the sand because it's just like another emotional investment.
I
Of
just,
course.
I don't
Really
know. I
invest
have
yourself
a
into it.
feeling about this for you. And it's only because of this. So I think was in my mind was starting to tell this before we got off track. But there's all these different dosages they give you of the hormone medication. And every woman's body is different. And so there's no one size fits all way to medicate when
Right.
you're trying to stimulate your ovaries to
Right.
do what they're supposed to do. So like for me, for example, I've done 3 retrievals and they've all been different and I've gotten different things from each one. But aside from those 3 retrievals, I've started IVF, meaning I've started just taking shots and trying to stimulate, I think 6 times in addition.
Wow.
To the 3 times I actually...
So 9 total.
Yes, but only like one time I got to day 4 and I had to bail. One time I got to day 7
did you
and I
have
had
to
to bail. Because, and this is what I'm interested in for you. So my body is really sensitive to hormones. So like if I do a round of IVF, like I have to do a cleanse after. I have to purge my liver and my kidneys of like all the hormones that I've been putting in my body. I have to rest. Like I can't do like I have friends who did 3 retrievals in a year back to back.
That's a lot. That's hard.
It
hard on your
takes
body.
my body so much time to like truly get ready to do it and then to come off of it after.
to recover.
In addition to that, I'm just sensitive. So like if they overstimulate me, like if like let's say, some people start at 225, that was too much for me. Like I had to start at 150. When my body hit this like 225 milligrams of whatever, literally my body would say, I'm not doing it. And we'd have to bail. And this has happened time and time again, like 6 times, like where they were trying to get the medicine right. It was like the first time I tried, we bailed. The second time we tried, we went through with it. And then we bailed out like 3 or 4 more times before I could do it again. And so it's just, so to my point of this is like, for me, lower dosage of medication was better for my body to respond. And they had to really kind of find the right cocktail for my body to actually do what it's supposed to do. And most people, they're like, no, your eggs aren't developing. Let's load you up because like, we got to give you the highest dose that's actually possible to get your eggs to stimulate. But that's actually not true for everybody.
Not for everybody.
It's not true for everybody. And I produce eggs. Like the first time I did it, I got 9 out and I wound up with 2 healthy embryos tested. The second time I did it, I got 21 out.
That's so
Jesus.
Wait, I got 5 that went to testing and all 5 were shit. They all went in the trash. So I got 0. So of all of those 20 eggs that I got out and the $20,000 that we spent to do it, we got nothing.
Wow.
Even though we got something. They just
were so defeated. Like you feel,
you have
walk
no
away
idea.
there being like, I mean, it's like, if you're going to spend all that money, you're like, great, I have a car. And like this is like you come out and like I'm not equating having a child as
No,
like
of
getting
course
a car,
not, but I know what you
But
mean.
it's like
Right.
you're like I could have put a down payment on a house,
Right.
like I could have done anything,
Right.
Yeah.
So it truly is
and they
a gamble.
Yeah. And they
It's-
give you
you're
your
literally
results.
putting
And
all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
like you're
Truly.
literally doing that.
Yeah. So
So
yeah,
what
the
is it-
second time, all 5, we were so excited. We're like, oh my God, I'm 2 years older now. I was 37 the first time I did it. I was 39 the second time I did it. We like quadrupled our numbers,
Right.
and then all 5 were shit, and one was downs. The others were truly, they call them incompatible with life, is what they tell you.
Oh, yeah.
So meaning like they just were
They
not
wouldn't survive.
Yeah.
They would not
They
survive.
might not even survive the pregnancy.
That's right.
Right.
So those went all in the trash. And so then we decided to do one more round that we did last year. And we got the same numbers. We got 21 out again.
Right.
And we wound up getting a miracle. I did this at, I think, wait, hold on. What was my age? It's like we did 2. Maybe I was 39. Maybe it was like 37, 38, 39. I don't know. Anyhow, we wound up getting 3 healthy embryos. So I had 2 from the original, 0 from the second,
Right.
and 3 from the third.
Right.
But in all of this, like the cocktail, just to get anything out of my body, it was like a crapshoot. Like,
Right.
And they kept having to lower my doses. So to the point of this whole thing called mini IVF, which I don't know a whole lot about, but I did have a friend tell me about a friend who did IVF, tell me about a friend who also did mini IVF. So it's like 2 steps removed.
She says she doesn't know anything about it, and then she'll come with a dickload of data.
I know, right? I love the
fascinating.
data.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So there's some doctors. Apparently, there's one here, a couple here in California, but there's one I had that I can share with you. My friend texted me her name, but they basically, for people who, so this woman, she actually lived in New York and she worked with a doctor in California, and they do low doses of hormones. So they don't overstimulate. And this girl had done a handful of rounds, never got anything out because she wasn't producing eggs. And so never even got anything to try to transfer into her body.
Wow.
And was like calling it like egg donor, moving on, adoption, like all the other stuff. And then she heard about this thing called mini IVF, and she did it in conjunction with like acupuncture and like
The
deep
teas.
herbs, and like changed her diet and all this stuff. And she went to this doctor and they did low doses. So
How old is she?
she's like late 30s, I think. I mean, maybe even, no, sorry. She's 41.
Okay.
She's in her 40s. And never got anything to take out of her body. And then with mini IVF, they do lower doses of drugs.
Right.
And so it's calmer. And some people's bodies just respond to that better. Mine does. Like, I know that for a fact because I've tried this so many times.
Right.
And she wound up getting 6 eggs out.
Nice.
She never got anything. 3 of them fertilized and were healthy. She got 3 healthy embryos from the 6, which is, they usually say you get like 1 embryo from every 4 to 5 eggs. So the fact that she got 50%,
Right. It's huge.
when it's really more like a 20% chance that you're going to get something viable, and she had 50% of them were good because they're not loaded up with all that junk
Right.
that you're putting in your body.
It's more
Yeah,
natural.
That's right. And
Closer
she's
to
pregnant.
natural.
And
She's
the-
pregnant? That's amazing.
I know, it's so fantastic.
Yes. By the way, I don't know this woman. She's a friend of a friend.
Yeah, but
I have
still-
like all of her doctors. But I'm just, and the woman,
She's the unicorn.
But yeah, and I do hate when people are like, well, I have a friend who blah, blah, blah. Or they stopped trying after
they stopped
10
trying, they
years
adopted,
and then
they
they
were
got
pregnant
pregnant
the next
naturally.
day.
It's
Yeah,
so crazy.
yeah.
Like, that's so annoying when people
Oh, that's
say
so
that
great. I'm
stuff.
so happy for your friend.
Yeah, exactly. That's not me.
Can I pass the milk at your friend's birthday party right now?
That's
'Cause we're a
right.
kids party?
That's
Cool,
right.
Great talk.
That's right. It's annoying as shit when people say that, right? But like, I only say this and that I think the process is really interesting. It doesn't apply to me because my body produces eggs. That's not what my issue is.
I'm going to actually look into that.
But I think you should look into it. I think you should take a consultation with this doctor
Yeah.
and you should look into it. And like the
will.
gluten-free, dairy-free, like all that stuff. Like I think it doesn't hurt. I don't know that there's any science behind it actually working. And I don't know that you'd have to do all that stuff again.
No, but it does. I feel like when I was first doing IUIs, I didn't change my lifestyle. I was like, okay, I just want to stay as normal as humanly possible. But I was also like a ball of nerves the entire time.
Right.
You're stressing yourself out to like the 10th degree. Like you're just going on a high level all the time, freaking out about it. Then when I started IVF, it was like I said, okay, I have to change my entire perception on everything. I have to change like my mindset now. And like all my friends and family are like, wow, you're like a lighter person. Because I refuse to let things bother me.
Right.
I'm like a mountain out of a molehill kind of person. I will just like freak out and be like, stress out over the stupidest things. And when I went to a second doctor for when I started IVF, and he was like, he placed urgency. He's like, you have a short window. You have to do this now. I recommend the highest dosage, everything. Let's pump you with everything.
I think there's something to this. I
like,
really,
pedal
really
to the
do.
metal. Yeah, I actually, because I believe you, because like their solution was more
Right.
every
and that's
time.
not everyone's body responds to that. And I feel like as much as I haven't done mini IVF or tried this other thing, I have seen my body respond to 225, 250, 275, and I've seen it respond to 150. And it's like I always do better. It's like steady pace wins the race. Like for me,
Right.
like a little bit as you go gets me more in the end than trying to blast my body with these hormones. My body is just like, I can't do this. No, I'm shutting down.
Right.
And I've seen it time and time and time again. Like now I have the research. I know how my body operates because we've tried that so many times.
Because you try it so many times.
It's so hard on your body though. Like
So hard.
gained so much weight
Yep.
doing it, and that
It's like a
just
yo-yo.
destroys your self-esteem.
Yep.
And then when it doesn't work and you have no money and no baby and you're just like, why does my husband even like me? Like this is, I mean, fortunately I am so lucky. My husband's been so supportive.
Yeah,
he
he's
came,
great.
He came with me to every appointment. The one appointment he didn't come with was the one when the guy goes, these are duds this time. And I came home crying. He goes, I'll never miss another appointment again. He was like, no way.
He's very sweet.
Very sweet. And it's like, I can see how it's the hardest thing for a couple to go through, because you as a female, you think I have like one job, and like some people don't want kids, and that's totally fine.
Right.
Do you find that as this whole process is going for you, Jen, that your desire to have children has shifted or changed at all?
Oh, 100%.
Like I
Has
question.
it? How so?
Oh my God, yes.
I remember like all I ever wanted like was a baby. Like that was my like. What do you want out of life? I want a baby. I want a baby. I want a kid. I want a family. Now I'm like, we got 2 incomes and no kids.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can travel.
Yeah.
And we can do these things. And like, I see all my other friends and they're like, we can't go out or we can't do this. And as much as I would love to be home with and I spend time with their kids, and I have niece and nephews, and we love spending time with them. Now, and I still really want a family, want a baby, but I question it more and
Yeah,
more.
me too.
Like, I'm like, is this really the outcome I want? Like, has that ship sailed?
Right.
And it makes you feel bad. Actually, it's a horrible feeling because you have so much conflict, internal conflict about it, and you feel like I put all this energy in. Like, am I quitting? Like, what? Like, am I going to regret this decision later?
Right.
It's really hard to sift through all of it.
It
Yeah.
really is. I would imagine it would be really hard
is.
to sift through. I think not that I don't love or
pregnant on the
want
pill.
my children, but I never really thought
Overachiever.
thought I'd have kids. Not because I didn't necessarily want them. I was very open to whatever life brought. So if life brought kids, great. Life didn't bring kids, I'm okay. I like myself. I'm happy.
Well, you're married to Bert, so you kind of got to keep that mentality going.
You know, I'm a
Life's an
little bit
adventure.
easygoing in a lot of ways, but I wonder, because I know from my own personal philosophy of life, I feel like what's meant to be happens, and I wonder if I were in this position, how I would feel, because I have always been I got pregnant on the pill. That's clearly where I'm supposed to go. If I'm not getting pregnant, I wonder if I would still have that philosophy of, well, I'm not supposed to have kids. This is where I'm supposed to go. Or if I would feel like I need to have kids. I wonder what would have happened for me if I'd been in that path. But I wonder too, for you, does it ever cross your mind? Maybe this is not where I'm supposed to be.
Absolutely.
all the time.
Yeah.
As you're sitting there, like, hormoned up to your neck, and or it's not working, you're trying, and you're taking your temperature, you're logging your mucus that day and saying, oh, I'm discharging this, and checking everything and stressing out, like, we have to have sex at these times.
Right.
You're like, why? Let's just enjoy ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
And funny, that's when I got pregnant.
Yeah.
So relaxing.
But it's
does mean
Isn't
something.
that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, You can't live in that world thinking, I'll just wait for it to happen.
Right.
You have to be proactive in some sense.
Right.
Otherwise, you're going to miss your opportunity.
Right. Well, I think too that when you have time to think about whether you want to have kids, like if you sat down and I was listening to your podcast today about life before and after kids, like if you sit down and you intellectualize the idea of having children, it's like, fuck no, I don't want to change my life. I don't want responsibility. Like my husband, Goldie, and I, like we travel like, throughout the year. That's so much the fabric of who we are. Like we don't have to like find childcare. We can just pick up and take an adventure. And like, we just drove to Mexico 2 weeks ago just for fun to go to wine country. Like we decided to do that. And we went like 4 days later, and that's our life. And that's not lost on me that is important to who we are as a couple and what makes us operate and what makes us tick. And when you have all of this time to think about, do I want to change my life and to shift it into this new phase? Like you didn't have time to think about it. So you just went with it. But I've had 5 years to really think about, is this what I want? And we've really enjoyed our life throughout the process. Like this has been a constant kind of like cycle of disappointment, but it's not the only thing that we have. Like our life is really, really good. And then this is like this thing we deal with. And it's just kind of constantly there. And so there's times where it pops up because we're doing something or we're in a cycle or we're trying something and then like we're in it and then it goes away and like I put it out of my mind and we go do something fun. And so it just really forces you to really think about it. And I think if people stop and thought about if they wanted to have children, I feel like a lot of people would talk themselves out of it.
Would they say
and I'm
pass,
not saying because, I know having a child is wonderful and I have so many kids in my life that are, our friends' kids and family and all of that it's great. And I'm still doing this, so I haven't decided not to do it.
Right, totally.
But like, especially in the past year or two, I'm like, you start to think like, is all of this worth it? Like, and I was never someone, I babysat as a kid. I'm the oldest of 3 siblings. My brother's 10 years younger than me. So I'm very used to being around kids. I'm really good with kids. I'm a natural nurturer. Just that's how I'm built.
Right.
So I always thought I'd be a mother, but like now when you really have to sit and think about it, I was never someone who was like, I just want my baby, or like, you hear people talk, and this actually is hard for me, especially now in thinking about what you're saying of like, do you want this? Do you not want this? And trying to sift through what that all means. Like you hear a lot of people who go through this process say, it doesn't matter. I'm going to do whatever it takes because I just want my baby. And I don't have that language. That's not intrinsic to who I am. Like I can't be like, I just want my baby at the end of this. It's not natural for me.
Right.
And there was even something, it was actually in the Michael Jackson documentary, but Wade Robson's wife was saying in the second episode that aired, or the second part that aired on Monday, she was like, when we decided to have kids, I said I was going to have kids when I couldn't stop thinking about being a mother, and then that was when I was going to decide, let's have our kids. And you hear people with all this language around starting their families, and I don't identify with any of that. So then I'm kind of like, well, what is that? Is that I'm detached from this process because it's been such an arduous 5 years? Is it that maybe our life is good and why press our luck? Is it that like I've just been through so much that I'm just done, like I'm cooked? Like
it's really
that's
interesting
it.
question.
Like I don't know. And our life, like this, I feel so lucky because my relationship with my husband is strengthened through this, and you see this tear a lot of couples down.
A lot of people.
For us, I'm like, wow, we've been through this thing now, and we are so much better for it as a unit. Like we know our value system, we know what's important to us, we know like the fabric of our relationship and the things that we need to do to like be happy and stay happy in our relationship. And we learned all this in the last 5 years because having a kid didn't come easy. So we didn't just like fall right into that.
Right.
And so it's a lot to kind of like psychologically figure out. And right now it's like we have these 3 embryos left and we kind of have to do something with them. But there's times where I'm just like, I don't know, it would be hard to just after all of this, just be like, okay, we're going to throw them in the trash.
I'll have them.
But there you go. Just like a little Jen and Goldie
why
baby.
why aren't they implanted or in?
I can't implant. I think from my I had a second trimester miscarriage.
A second trimester.
Yeah, I miscarried at 16 weeks. But what they think happened, it was called a silent miscarriage, which didn't know what this was until it happened to me.
Never heard of it.
But it's where like your body, the fetus or baby, however you want to call it, basically dies in utero, but doesn't miscarry. It doesn't come out of your body. So I went to my 12-week appointment, and the growth of the fetus had like slowed, but my doctor, who I believe to be negligent, who I swear if I could sue I would, but I don't think I would win the case because I've actually like explored this, who I kept pushing back on because I'm like, he kept pushing my due date back and back and back. And I was like, I know when I conceived. Like, I get it pushing it back like plus or minus 3 or 4 days, but he pushed it back 7 days because the fetus was not growing. And he was like, no, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
You got a heartbeat?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it was like, we passed like the point where we were telling people, we passed our first trimester, like everything except the size. It just was growing slowly. He sent us home.
But it still had a heartbeat while it was growing.
Yeah. He sent us home at 12 weeks and he was like, great, we'll see you in 16 weeks for your amnio. And I thought it was so strange because I'd been there like every week because there's like, I would some like strange stuff happen. So like, you know, sometimes you go like every 2 weeks. Like we were there every week. So I did an ultrasound.
If you didn't see the growth, he'd like, let's come in next week and check it again.
That's right.
Yeah.
So he sent us home and I thought it was really strange. I know in a normal pregnancy, you don't come, like after you hit your 12-week mark, you don't come back to 16 till 16. Right. But I just felt it was weird because I'd been there so much and I'd had an ultrasound every single week since I found out I was pregnant. But he sent us home and we went home for 4 weeks and everyone was like, I mean, we were telling people because we were past the clearing point. And I just remember people asking me how I felt and I was like, it's so weird. I don't feel pregnant. I just don't feel pregnant. I wasn't really gaining weight. I was like, I don't feel pregnant. I don't feel connected. Someone who I'd known who had a kid on her own, got this like thing that you put on your stomach where you can put headphones in and listen to the heartbeat because she said for her, because she was having a baby without a partner, that was her way of feeling like connected to the baby. So she'd listen to the baby's heartbeat. So she gave it to me. This was my neighbor and I put it on my stomach and I couldn't hear a heartbeat. And I was like, I thought I was hearing my own heartbeat and I couldn't figure it out, but everything was fine. Like, but everything was fine. Like other than the fact I didn't feel it, nothing was like wrong. I was not bleeding. I wasn't spotting.
Right.
4 weeks go by. I was going in for my 16-week appointment and the day before I started spotting a little bit and I called the doctor's office and they were like, just come in tomorrow, you're coming in anyways. Right. And I came in and there was no heartbeat at 16 weeks. So and they measured the fetus and it was not much bigger than my last appointment. So it must have died right after that appointment at either 12 or 13 weeks. Right. And I carried it.
Sorry.
I carried it for like 4 weeks dead. I mean, it's morbid, but I carried it around just like dead inside my body, which wreaked havoc on my uterus.
I was going to say that had to have made you sick.
Yeah,
in some capacity.
So so I had a DNC where they go
What's
in.
a DNC?
It's where it's a something in cartilage to dilate and. It's the same thing as an abortion where it's when you don't miscarry yourself or when you want to take a fetus out of your body, they go in and they suck it out.
It's like, they vacuum everything.
They vacuum it out.
But it causes a lot of, it wreaks havoc on your system.
It can cause a lot of damage. And actually what's super interesting, which I now know because I have this like uterus doctor who's like famous guy who like is the guy. But in other countries, when you do a DNC, they go in with a camera. So they see what they're doing because he's practiced in other countries. And he said in the US, it's not practice to go in and do a DNC with a camera. So basically it's like Stevie Wonder going up there and pulling a fetus out of your body and you don't really know what you're damaging.
Or what you're pulling out.
Or what you're pulling out because you can't see what you're doing. And that's just what they do in the US. It's just practice.
Wow.
So a lot of people who have DNCs, maybe people who've had abortions or people who have had miscarriages, who've had things pulled out of their body, or even women who've been pregnant before and maybe like not everything came out, can develop this thing called ashermans, which is basically scar tissue of the uterus. So scar tissue forms in places in your uterus, which makes it hard for an embryo to implant.
Right.
And you can go in and you can cut that out, but there's no... It can come back.
Reform,
I mean, because you think about it, if you pull a scab off,
a
new scab can form. So you can pull the scar tissue out and it might never come back because it might heal properly, or you may form more. So you have these like little spots around your uterus. And so they don't want you to have scar tissue in your uterus when you're implanting because it makes for less space for the embryo to implant.
Right.
And apparently Asherman's is wildly common. I think that's what Kim Kardashian had.
Oh, okay.
It's like, when you say if you talk to Asherman's, like there's tons of people who have this thing and like no one knows about it.
That's the
no
thing
one
about
talks about it.
The fertility. It's like you start talking about it and like that's me. Like so many people have so many common problems and struggles and stories, but no one talks about it.
Yeah,
like you never know.
Can I tell you how many topics I have talked about on this podcast that is exactly the same? This past weekend, Bert and another friend's husband, and I wanted to talk about sex with men, and I'd asked 2 other men. They were like, "Oh, pass." I asked 4 people, I think it was, to talk to me about depression. Pass.
Oh, really?
It was finally Oksana. Cotty's nanny finally said yes, and I was like, "Thank God." I mean, why? How do we ever get better as a community if we don't talk about things? I mean, to hear that someone has a better or worse even experience than your own, or something even similar, makes you feel not alone.
Yeah, that's right.
And we feel so isolated, I think, as it is anyway. People isolate themselves when they're unhappy and when they're struggling and depressed and they're having problems like this. You tend to isolate, and especially when you're surrounded by people who have children. Because at your age, especially, everybody has young children.
And social media doesn't help. It's like one big
it's the
announcement.
worst.
I mean, no matter what you want in life, if you look at social media,
You're
that's all you're going to see.
Like you're lagging. Yeah.
If you're looking to buy a home, all you're going to see is sold signs on everyone's post.
You're right.
You know, if you want to get married, you're going to see engaged photos up and down.
Right.
Yeah.
On National Infertility Day.
Oh, is it?
There's
Okay.
a thing.
Oh, there is a thing. You're
There's
right.
a thing.
National Infertility Day?
Yeah.
Which I didn't know existed. Then, of course, like I saw something like on my feed or something, and I reposted it. It was like a little sign that said "Happy National Fertility Day. You're not alone." And I, again, not a big share, so every now and then I'll do something like that, just to like, you know, just to kind of check the temperature of the room.
Yeah.
I was shocked how many people messaged me, like, my 3 kids are all from IVF.
Right.
Like people like who I thought they had like the perfect family and
Yeah.
like their life was so amazing, and like people would just reach out to me and say, Sarah, I feel you. Same with me. You know, we tried for 6 years for our little boy, and after 5 rounds of IVF, we got him. And it's like people all
It's
share
everywhere.
this struggle.
Yeah.
Like it's a real common. I mean, okay, we're turning into Handmaid's Tale. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it is a little scary.
Yeah.
But that's I digress.
Well, I
Taking
have
it
2
dark.
friends other than you guys who have gone through fertility. No, I'm sorry. I just thought of a third that I know of who went through fertility and it was successful. Different rounds, different methods, but 3 people who are success stories, you know.
I know a lot of success stories.
Yeah,
with
me
it.
too.
Yeah.
It is a very, hopeful path for a lot of people. But I'm sorry it has been such a hard one for you guys. I can't even imagine what you went through when you miscarried. What'd you feel like? How'd you feel?
I mean, it sucked. I mean, it was depressing, but at the same time, like, wow, oh my God, I got pregnant. I was pregnant for like 5 minutes. And it was funny because
Like my body can do it.
I was like, I can do it. This is amazing. Like I have this like really kind of like unbelievable sense of hope from it, which
That's great.
which was crazy.
great.
Like I didn't think, and plus I mean, you were pregnant much longer. Like I was pregnant for 5 minutes.
But I don't think it matters. And that's the thing is like, I didn't understand miscarriages before I miscarried. Like I'd see people or I talked to people who had them and I just was like, well, you didn't know the kid. Like, how do you, like, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
And I think it doesn't really matter because you're like, it's like you're miscarrying. It sounds so cheesy, but like you're miscarrying the hope
Yeah,
that
I was
like
just gonna say
of
that
what's
same
to
word.
come.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
just
The
that.
possibility.
It's possibility where it's like, and it's hard even from like the moment you find out you're pregnant. It's like you kind of start thinking, all right, what's my life going to look like?
Yeah.
And
You start making plans
You start making
in your
plans and
head.
you start counting, and everything when you're pregnant is weeks. Like, remember people being like, oh, I'm 34 weeks, and I'd be annoyed because I'm like, I don't know what that means. Just tell me how many months pregnant
Right,
you are.
right.
But like once you're pregnant, you're like, oh, okay, so it's the size of a pea, and then it's the size of an
What fruit is
orange,
it?
and
Yeah.
it's it's like you kind of start getting invested in the dream of what your life is going to look like. So, and then when I miscarried, I mean, it was for me, it was devastating, which I was really also surprised by. I also was surprised that I really liked being pregnant. I thought I would hate it, and I really liked it. And I remember the morning I woke up after my DNC, I remember thinking like, oh, it's just me now. Because like I was waking up every day for 16 weeks. I mean, I guess you don't know for the whole 16 weeks. It's whatever, 12 or 14 weeks.
Still, that's a long
And I just, you
time.
wake up every day or you go to the bathroom and you're like, oh, there's something in there. Or,
Yeah.
I'm sitting down at work and I was like, it's not
You had
just
like a
me.
secret. Like
I
you-
had the
yeah,
secret.
yeah.
I just started a new job. It was right when I started working with Cotty, and I found out I started on a Monday and I found out I was pregnant the Sunday after.
Oh my gosh.
So I didn't know anyone at work yet. So I couldn't even like share it at work. And there was
Right.
other people in our department who were pregnant at the same time. And I was like, I'm pregnant too, but I can't say it. And so like
Yeah.
I was living with the secret for a really long time.
Right.
And then, but you'd wake up every morning and I'd be like, oh, there's something in there. It's not just me. And then the day after it was over, I was like, oh, it's just me now. Like it was really kind of just a sad thought. And I was really, I mean, it happened on Cinco de Mayo. It was May 5th. And that summer was just a really hard summer. Like I remember I'm super social and I'm social via my job because it's a social job and just because of who I am. And I didn't go out at all and like no dinners, no girlfriends. Like I read a lot. I like came home and I would just like sit on my couch and read, and I like got super like monastic with my life. Like I just wanted to be alone. I didn't want to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was interesting. I kind of surprised myself in the process, because before it happened, I just didn't really understand it.
Right.
I was like, well, what's the big deal?
Well, what do you understand now?
That's a really good question. I mean, I don't know. It's like, it's hard, because that was a long time ago. That was in 2014.
Right.
And so since then we've been through so much, and that's kind of, you know, like that's what I see now. I don't like think back to that time.
Do you think you learned maybe about loss or the depth of their loss?
Maybe.
As opposed to before, you know, like you were saying, you don't even know the baby. What's the big deal?
Right.
Was that maybe the depth of their loss? Or, I mean, you definitely sounds to me like you were in some way depressed.
Yeah, I definitely was.
There's definitely depression that comes with it.
Healing.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a cycle of grief people go through when
sure.
when you experience
Yes.
loss. If you lose a loved one, it's about an 18-month cycle to go through the full grieving process.
Right.
So clearly you were grieving in some
For
way,
sure.
right?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely grieving.
When you started telling people, were you surprised how many people were like, oh yeah, I also miscarried? Like so many
yes.
people I knew were like, I miscarried too. I have a girlfriend who actually has suffered 9 miscarriages.
Yeah.
9?
Yeah.
9. And we were both like, while I was doing all the IUIs,
9?
she was going through miscarriage after miscarriage after miscarriage. And she had no problem getting pregnant. She just, her body couldn't keep it.
Just couldn't keep
and
it. Oh.
like she ended up doing a lot of the same drugs I was doing post,
Transfer.
post transfer.
ovulation.
She was on the, because her doctors were trying to get her to keep it while I was trying to also do the same thing. And so we'd like share war stories, and we were really close. It was really great to have that sounding board.
Right.
And I remember her saying to me, she's like, Sarah, I couldn't imagine being in your shoes. I go, what? And she's like, I couldn't imagine not knowing if I could ever get pregnant. And I'm like, I think I'm more heartbroken for you. I couldn't imagine losing it every time.
Yeah.
Right.
And the hope. And she goes, no, I think your situation's worse. And like that, but it wasn't like a dig. It wasn't like a
Right.
mean dig. It was like,
No.
it was that unknown, like we both kind of were just like feeling each other's pain and going, that's got to be the worst. And
Right.
she's like, no, your situation like seems worse to me.
Well, it's all
And-
hard.
It's
Yeah.
all hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They end up adopting. They have a beautiful daughter now. She's amazing.
That's
She's
great.
6. So
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it was just like, and I remember having a talk with her being like, you have to stop getting pregnant. This is not good for your body.
It
Like,
can't
you have
be
to
good
stop.
to
Yeah.
miscarry naturally without having it sucked out.
Right.
It's got to wreak havoc on your body. So then, back to what you were
Yeah, I'm
saying about
sorry.
having these
Yeah,
3.
no.
No, please, this is what we
We're
do.
in it, girls.
This is a
We're in
regular
it.
conversation,
Yeah.
which is what we want. What do you think you're going to do with the 3? Is it viable? Is that a
yeah?
good
That's
word?
a very good
Little
question. We are
embryos.
very much at a.
Do you know the sex of them?
No, we are a no gender couple.
Oh yeah, us too. We're like, let's just make it happen.
So yeah, even when I was pregnant, and actually, I have to say that when I miscarried, I was really happy I didn't know the sex.
Oh, because
I think it just would have made it a lot more real if I knew I'd like miscarried a boy or a girl.
Right. Would have been really personal.
I always thought I would know. I'm like a total planner, but Goldie, my
you
husband,
still don't want to know now if you get
No.
pregnant.
No, Goldie was Goldie
Or when
was,
you get
Goldie
pregnant,
was
I
like a
should say.
take it or leave it kids guy. Like if he met someone who didn't want to have kids, he would have been totally fine. And if he met someone who wanted to have kids, like great. But then with this whole gender thing, he was like, I just don't want to know. So I'm like, I'll give you that. Even though I'm a planner and I would think like I would need to know.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to know. So I'm with him on that. So when you test for PGS, you can say, I don't want to know the gender, and then they don't deliver those results. So we have
good.
no idea what any of our embryos have been. And I just, a small piece of information. So we've had 5 embryos. We did transfer 1 back in 2016 and it didn't work. And then we had 1 left and it felt like so much pressure on that 1 embryo. And we were like, oh, this is our last chance embryo. Like, if it doesn't work, then we might be done. And that felt really scary. So instead of transferring it, we went, and that's why we did 2 more rounds. To try to get, we would have only done 1 more round,
You
but we
went up
did the
the
bad
ante.
round. We
Yeah.
have the
Right.
the middle
Yeah,
round,
yeah.
which was our bad round, and so then we did the 3rd round, and then we got the 3 more. So then we had 4 last year, and we transferred another one in November. Also didn't work. So now we have 3 left. So of the 5, we've tried 2, and I think we're at this precipice right now. So it's interesting. So after the last, a lot of people will do like 4 transfers before they work. So part of me is like, oh, we could just keep going. But we know that I had ashermans. I had 2 surgeries to remove scar tissue in the same year back in 2015.
And did they work, the surgeries?
Well, the first one worked and then didn't. So then they had to repeat it 6 months later. I switched doctors in the process and wound up with this guy, Dr. March, who is like the uterus guy. And that's how like I learned all of this stuff from him, like about the camera and the uterus and how they do it in Italy and, you know, what asherman's is and how common it is and how a uterus develops every month and all of that. So,
wait, a uterus develops every month?
Well, how the lining and so
the
your
lining.
period.
You shed your lining.
Yeah, okay.
But when they do
I
it,
thought like you're
that's
you're
when
like
your
packing
period
on
is,
pounds
Leanne.
on the outside or something. Yeah,
no, like an inside it has to, like when you simulate a cycle to do a transfer, which is what your body would do naturally.
Right.
Your uterus gets really like thick. The lining gets super thick and they call it like fluffy. And they want it to be like a pillow that the embryo can just sink into.
The analogies are hilarious.
They're so funny. So they
juicy eggs. We've got juicy eggs.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So they simulate that. So like your body naturally does that. It makes a really good home for the embryo to implant. My body with this process has to be simulated. But because my uterus is kind of funky now because of all of the stuff that's happened up there since my miscarriage, or maybe because of my miscarriage, because we got pregnant naturally, no real problems, and now we can't get pregnant, and it's been 5 years. So you pretty much look at that and say, well, that's the reason.
Yeah. Something was damaged.
Right. And then, time passes, so it gets harder as you get older.
Right.
Yeah.
So
for your listeners, I am 40.
Me too.
Oh,
78.
I'm 79, so you're much older than me.
I'm so much older than
so
you.
Much older. No, so it's like the statistics are not in our favor.
Yeah, they are not.
Yeah.
And you see those years tick up every year. It's like, I hate birthdays. I'm just like,
I hate them.
You're just like, because every birthday you're like, oh, by next year this is going to be figured out. And then next year rolls around and it's not.
Maybe you could,
it's not about being older.
It's about not
year
evolving.
passing.
It's another year passing. You haven't evolved to that next step in your life.
That's exactly right.
I feel very just stagnant. I feel like I'm not. I keep saying I'm not evolving. It's like, and I'm professionally evolving. I'm as a person, as a human, I'm evolving. But
this
as
place, you're
the place I want and the next step I want to be in is not happening yet.
No. And it's like you do so much. So you feel like you're doing a lot. But I'm like, I feel like I'm an expert in this now. Like I could write the book on this thing.
You definitely are.
But the thing that's crazy, like you have 2 women sitting here talking to you about this and we're not success stories yet.
No.
So it's like,
and
I was thinking about that when I was coming here, where I was like, it's really interesting because a lot of times you'll talk to people who went through it and they went through the ringer. And then you hear, but they got what they wanted at the end. It's like, I don't know what this is going to end like for me. And you don't know what this is going to end like for you. So we're, we have all this information and we've been in it for a really long time and we're like experts now because we've been through so much, but like I don't know if I'm gonna have a family at the end of it.
Well, I think that's important for people to hear because I have 3 friends that I could have had on to be a success story.
Right.
They all went through it, and
yoo-hoo!
That's
everyone
what,
has. There's always success stories. No one hears what people are still going through it.
Well, still going through it, and even still struggling through it.
Right. And the success stories, their advice always at the end is keep going. It's worth it.
Because
keep going.
It worked
You're like
for them.
Yeah,
but
it may not work.
But that's what we think.
Everybody.
That's how I think for them.
For
you.
For them. That's
not
right.
for me. Like not for me.
I always try to find the humor in the whole process because that was my defense mechanism. I had to laugh at it. I had to find the flip side. If it was a shitty situation, which it is, you're just like,
what's the glass half full?
Where's the positive? So, one of the stages, I went to an acupuncturist that a friend of mine swore by. Excuse me. And I went to her and she's like, I have 100% success rate.
Oh, you can't say
no,
that.
That's what she said.
That is crazy.
She goes, I have 100% success rate. She also had me eating a pineapple a day.
What?
Because pineapple is great for
the
bruises.
Pineapple core is good for implantation.
Okay, yeah. She was telling me it builds juicy eggs. It's
that's
great.
weird.
It's regenerative. It's like rejuvenation, and it's actually, if you have bruises, eat pineapple, your bruises will be gone in 2 days.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Anytime I have a trip plan, I'm going to be in a bathing suit, and I'm like, of course I'll run into a wall or a table, and I'll have a big bruise on my leg. I start ODing on pineapple. But anyway, she had me eat she's like, you need to eat a pineapple a day. I was eating so much pineapple. My mouth was like raw from all the acid. My teeth were sensitive. It was like, my family's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I have to eat all this pineapple. So I went to this woman for like 6 months, eating pineapple all the time. My mouth was full of canker sores. I'm just like a mess. And then she goes, oh, I'm moving my practice to another location. I'm like, okay, what's where are you going? Is it close by? I mean, can I keep my same time slot? And she goes, I think it's best if we part ways now.
You got fired by your acupuncturist?
She dumped me.
What?
No
Because
way.
Because I was unsuccessful.
Because
you were
couldn't
ruining her
have
I was ruining her record.
these
and
people?
She fucking dumped me.
I'm gonna give you an
And I'm like,
acupuncture makeover.
Okay, is that how it's going to be? Okay,
That's
fine.
crazy.
No,
That's out of control.
and then so I got to talk to someone else, and they recommended this other acupuncturist. She was an OBGYN, and she stopped her practice and started doing Chinese medicine in Santa Monica. This acupuncturist firm she started, and she was amazing. And when I went there, she was like, okay, I need to do a test on your body, and like, can you please take off you can leave your underwear on, but take off your pants and your top. Okay, well, I was wearing like workout pants and I wasn't wearing underwear under them. So, and she's like, your sports bras waist. I'm like butt naked on this table. And I'm like, I don't care. And she's like, okay, if you want to be naked, that's fine. I'm like, okay, I have nothing on. So then she starts going through and she's checking like everything. And she's like, oh, your family is like bad holiday. Your liver's fighting with your spleen and your digestive tract is all off. So she's like, you need to quit eating this and start doing bone broth and heavy marrow. And like telling all that stuff. And I went to acupuncture for twice a week. I drink teas every day. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, I don't know if it helped, but it mentally helped. Mm-hmm. Like that 30-minute acupuncture session was like the most relaxing time of my week.
Right.
And the teas were horrible. They tasted like death, but
they taste like dirt.
They taste like dirt. And every week is like a different flavor of dirt because it changes.
Different flavored dirt.
Oh, it's horrible. And it's like black and you're like, time to mix all these potions.
Oh God.
Doing it daily. It's like, I've tried the gamut and I always tried to find humor in like what's going on right now.
Right.
Like I'm like, okay, well the humor in this is I just did a whole test naked where she's telling my organs are like bad family holidays. And,
they're all fighting with each other.
And at least she's not firing me because I'm not, it's like, I always try to find the bright side. Otherwise you're just spinning your wheels.
Yeah.
You're just constantly like defeated.
Right. I would imagine for certain disposition people, because we all have different dispositions.
Yeah.
Some people have naturally very melancholy disposition. And I would be afraid that the trials that you guys have been through would be very hard because you both have very positive dispositions.
Oh, I went bitter
Very
for a while.
happy.
Did you ever get bitter? I got
yes,
real
and
That's
bitter.
all
not
the
your
time.
disposition.
No,
that's
I
just
was-
your space and
I would-
time.
I'm bitter.
Yeah, but
I'm
I would
bitter
tell
every
people,
day.
Yeah, I would like literally tell
Yeah.
people like, "Oh, do you have kids?" And like after they like go off on like this tangent about family, kids are blessed. Do you have kids? Like at family parties, I go, "I'm infertile." And my mom would be there. My mom would be like, "Oh, you did not just say that." I'm all, "Cheers."
At least
and
you're
walk
direct.
away.
I feel like I
just-
passive aggressively walk away. Like I have coworkers who like talk about their kids and I leave the conversation. I'm just
Right.
like I like duck out of it. You know, I just
Right.
I will
I'm like
walk
aggressively
away.
rude
Or
at
like
this point.
yeah, just
It's really hard being someone who has kids. I've talked about this in so many different situations in my podcast. Sometimes I don't know what to say. Like I don't know. Like I don't want to not talk about my kids. That's inauthentic for me. But at the same time, I don't want to make someone feel really uncomfortable.
Right.
So
I'll
it's
find this
hard.
article. How not to be a dick to
Please
your
do.
intimate friend.
That'd be awesome.
I have it. I'll find it because it's very helpful.
That would be amazing
Yeah.
because I think with lots of things like depression,
Everything.
someone's depressed. I don't know what to say to someone who's depressed. And I mean, I'm a super happy person. So am I not supposed to be happy? I
Right.
mean, does that trigger
I
something?
think-
It's
I
hard
think
to
It's
know.
like when someone can't relate, you can't relate. I always feel like I don't know if you guys read Sheryl Sandberg's second book, Plan B.
no.
Or Option B. Plan B is the drug. Which one's the morning after pill?
Plan B.
Oh, this book's called Option B. Then I always
Yeah.
say it's the wrong one.
Right.
She
Plan
wrote
B
this
for
book called Option B,
fertility.
which is about her grieving her husband after he passed away.
Oh, wow.
And I sent this book. If you look at my Amazon account, by the way, I don't like buying books on Amazon. I'd rather go to the bookstore. But
I'm writing this down.
Option B. If you go look at my Amazon account, I think I've bought 20 to 25 copies.
Really?
I bought it for my mom. I bought it for my in-laws. I like anyone. Like I bought it for people who just don't have the tools or understand how to. This book's about grief, but there's so much application to what we're going through. And she just talks about like how to be a human to someone who's grieving.
Right.
And there's so much good stuff in there. Like I can't even tell you how good it is. Like it's like the best self-help book I've read in forever. But she talks about the fact that when someone's going through something, like when she went through her husband passing away, like people kind of like don't want to talk, like they don't want to,
No.
they're like, well, if I bring it up, I'm going to upset you, or like, I don't want to make you think of it. And she's like, I'm thinking about it all the time.
Right.
You not talking about it diminishes its importance in my life.
Interesting,
And so
yeah.
she's like, people will be like, how are you? Which is a really broad question and she can't answer it. So she just says, I'm fine. But when you say, how are you today? it forces someone to say like, how are you doing right now? How are
Yes.
you feeling right now in this moment?
That
And there's
makes
a big
sense.
difference between how are you and how are you today. So like all these little things in this book that I was just like, they were such a lightning rod for me. It's interesting, like our in-laws who are my in-laws, my husband's parents, who are wonderful and super amazing, and we have an amazing relationship with them, but like they have no idea how to talk to us about this. So they'll like dance around asking us a question, and it's like, or my mom for example, my mom will be like, so how's your health? And I'm like, it's not my health. This is not my health. What do you want to know? And actually, if you don't ask me the right question, I'm going to punish you by not giving you the right answer.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Interesting.
Like, and it bothers me. So it's like, and our in-laws will be like, well, our thoughts and prayers are with you. I'm like, we don't need thoughts and
I don't
prayers.
need thoughts and prayers.
Right.
You know,
but then
$50,000
tell
to
me,
keep doing
what do you need?
I just, I find that interestingly, a lot of the people that I feel the most comfortable talking to about it are just like clear and direct. And a lot of them have been through it, so they know how to have that conversation. But like, I am not someone who is like, I'm super open, clearly, like I will talk about any of this, but I have to be asked because I don't want to burden you with my problems and what I'm going through. So like, I'm not going to talk about it unless you ask me the question. So like, if you want to know what's going on, just ask me directly. Like, how are you doing? Like, where are you at this month in your process? Like, where's your head at? What are you thinking? Like, because you're always kind of making decisions. It's like, you always have to kind of like get in check with yourself and figure out like where you're at and like what you're going to do next. Like, just ask me that. And, we have friends who'll be like, well, how's it going? And like, they truly want to know, like, get in the weeds with us. Like, I'm totally cool with that.
Right.
But then there's also, it's interesting because I do feel like there's a lot of stigma around talking about it. And it bothers me when and it shouldn't, because it's everyone's personal choice on how much they want to talk about it.
Right.
But like, it truly bothers me when people want to hide that they're going through infertility, or like they don't want to tell people that they had to do IVF, or that they had to use an egg donor, or that they had to do it this way. Like, it's a secret.
Right.
And
Like it's something
You're
shameful?
making it
Like,
more
it's
taboo
shameful.
and shameful by hiding it that way.
right, exactly. And so it's like,
But it's not shameful.
it's not
No.
shameful. So part of me is like, I want everyone just to be open and honest and talk about it, because the more we talk about it, the less shameful it's going to be.
And
But
more collaborative, and you get more information.
That's
and you can
absolutely
find
right.
more.
Help each
You
other.
can find out about this mini IVF.
that's
and like,
absolutely right.
Yeah.
And we can help each other. But I will say, in the past like year or so, like as we're kind of like getting, deep in on this thing, like there's just sometimes I just don't want to talk about it. And I find myself doing this thing that I used to kind of judge in the past, which is like, I shut down and don't want to talk about it. And then I think other people shut down around me. And then like, it's just a taboo topic. And I think it's like, it's because of me. Like, it must be something I'm giving off. But it's really just because I don't always want to dredge it up. And I think that's what's so great about Sheryl Sandberg's book, is she's like, if I don't want to talk about it, I'm going to tell you I don't want to talk about it. But
Right.
just ask me the questions so that you are not diminishing that this is something that's important that's going on in my life. And like, when you dance around it, you make me feel like something's wrong with me.
Well, I think that's...
Does that make sense?
No,
Am I articulating this properly?
150%
Okay.
makes sense, because I think that exactly what you described is the flaw in every issue, mental health issue, and money issue, and marital issue. It's the fear of receiving a punitive reaction from the person you're asking. So in order not to receive a punitive reaction, we don't do anything at all,
Right.
which then again keeps us isolated and is not helping us create a sense of community. Instead of, and I guess maybe, I wonder if you have to have a certain healthy self-esteem to be able to accept the punitive and not take it personally.
Right.
If your intention is, I really want to be supportive and see how you're doing, and you can't be that person today, and to be, you know what, I'm not here, I'm not doing it. To not think that you, as the person who's caring and asking, did something wrong, to be able to hold that space. My intention was good. She's not in that space, and it's nothing to do with me.
Right.
If we could, but that takes a little bit of practice.
It does.
But there's
You
also
know?
like a little. I have a friend who's just starting to do fertility treatment and just kind of venturing into that, and she gave me like a 45-minute lecture on the phone about what am I doing now? Why am I not doing this? Why am I
'cause
not
she knows everything
Because she
now.
knows everything right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, listening to her, because I know that was her way of getting it out. But I'm like, I'm 9 years in.
Yeah.
I've done it all.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm taking a fucking break.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
for my sanity and my well-being, I know what's next on my agenda. I just have to get there emotionally.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and I don't have the luxury of time, but I also don't have the luxury of like psycho, like to make myself crazy
Right.
over it.
Right.
But she was just coming at me. And I just let her, I'm like, okay, you do this and you go through this, and if I hope the first cycle works for you. I hope that works. And she's the kind of person like you where she wants to know more information and have all the answers and be bothered. And I don't discount her for that. I commend her for arming herself with as much knowledge as humanly possible. But it's like, don't project what's going on with your situation right now onto me.
Right.
And I'm like you. It's like, if someone asks me, I'm an open book. I will tell them anything they want to hear.
Right.
I won't come at you and volunteer and be like, my struggles and da 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 da.
Totally.
But it's like, if you ask and open that door, I will give you the answer.
Yeah.
Right.
And if it makes you uncomfortable, then that's on you.
Yeah.
You ask the question.
Right.
I mean, I remember having conversations with my mom, my sister, who I'm so close with, and they can't understand. They both have kids. Like, my mom had us, and my sister has 2 healthy, happy kids. And it's like, they just kept saying to me, oh, have you tried this? And like, I have my sister-in-law sending me links on taking celery juice and like all this stuff. I'm like, thanks. Like, or they're always offering like advice, and I appreciate it. But at the same time, like, can't you just say to me, Sarah, this blows?
That's exactly
That's
right.
all I want to
That's
hear.
exactly
This
right.
blows. That sucks. And I remember like screaming, crying at the top of my lungs, going, like, telling my mom to shut up, saying, don't tell me anything. All I want to hear you say is that sucks. I don't want answers. I don't want solutions. Don't come back at me with anything. Just agree that this sucks and let me get it out.
That's right.
Because, I'm doing all the things.
Yeah.
Don't try to give me more things to do.
Right. I think that's a really good point too, because
Yeah.
I feel like, and actually in like the do's and don'ts of this, like the worst, and I think we started talking about this at the beginning, is when someone's like, well, I had a friend who like, they did everything for 10 years and then, they just stopped trying, and then they adopted a kid, and then the minute that kid came home, or the minute they got their surrogate, or the minute they whatever,
Thanks,
boom,
Charlotte from Sex and
pregnant.
the City.
Yeah.
Right.
Boom, pregnant. And it's like everyone has a story. And,
Yeah.
and what I will say is, actually, I think people think that's helpful, and it's not.
Right.
Like that, I think that's how people think, oh, I'm going to relate to you. I'm going to connect to you. I'm going to tell you about my friend and like her struggle and how it worked out for her in the end. But when you're in it, it's not working out for you at that minute. And you kind of don't want to hear about it working out for other people.
I understand
Like, I
that.
had my
You don't
a
wanna
bunch
hold
of
on
my
to their
best
hope.
friends, like my best college girlfriends who I'm so close to still, they've gone through IVF, and their IVF just worked. And I was like really annoyed and hurt, not at them, and their children are wonderful, and I'm so happy they have them, and I don't wish any ill will upon them. But like, I just remember thinking, oh, like when I look at someone and I'm like, oh, you had to do IVF, which is hard, but it worked, and that like that's the holy grail now. Like, that's kind of crazy. Like when you're on the other side of it, when you've done it and it hasn't worked,
Right.
and then you're like, oh, their IVF was easy, they're lucky.
Right.
I mean, whereas other people who do IVF are like, oh, they got pregnant easy, they're lucky, or their IUI worked and they're lucky. Like, it's like, I don't want to hear the stories of all the people that it worked for, because we've tried
completely
a lot.
understand that. I understand that point of view. I think too,
It's not helpful.
Yeah.
It's not helpful, and it in a certain way, I would imagine it discounts your process.
It absolutely
It
does.
absolutely does.
And
Yeah.
so that's not
It's
what
like, well,
anybody
something must be
needs.
wrong with me.
Yeah.
And we have this inclination to fix, as
course.
we want to fix, and sometimes what needs to happen is to hold the other person's feelings and to hold their experience, and for that to even, I think it's healthy to say, this is what I hear you saying. I hear you saying that this is really hard. I hear you saying that this is lasting way longer than you want it to. I hear you saying you'd like this to have a happy ending. And so far it hasn't. And that's been sad and depressing and challenging and humorous, and has brought you closer to your husband. And it's made you maybe realize how valuable your partner is. That's what I hear you saying. So maybe if someone who wants to talk to you about that could do that, that would be very valuable.
If everyone communicated that way, we'd be in a perfect society.
Wouldn't that be
With all
amazing?
things.
Why
Yeah.
can't
So
they just
great.
listen to me? People?
Yeah.
This is how you're supposed to be.
Ladies and gentlemen, the voice of reason.
I know, right? No, but
You're right. You're absolutely right.
But that should be your goal. I think for everything is that we are nothing without each other.
Right.
So if you're right and it's all your perspective, then you are by yourself. So the lack of motivation to hold another person's space is what is making us sick as a people. I think it causes disease, it causes unrest, it causes war, it causes every problem. Is a lack of desire to hold another person's position and try and understand and sympathize or empathize, whichever word is correct in that situation, so that that person is so disarming is the wrong word, but when you do that for someone,
It's
it
humbling.
makes them relax.
Yeah.
Which it takes all the negative out of the situation. Not that that's your intention.
No.
My intention would be to have that person feel cared for.
Absolutely.
Because that's your intention when you start going, well, I got this friend who
Right.
took a turkey baster and, his
Yeah.
husband jacked off in the bathroom and
Right.
it was done.
Yeah.
And that's their intention, but that's not the end result.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
No, I have a lesbian couple of friends like, we bought a turkey baster online and we just like bought sperm and we did ourselves in the bathroom.
We bought
And
sperm
they
at
got
the
pregnant.
7-Eleven.
And
No.
I'm like looking down, I'm like, are you serious right now? Like,
Right.
seriously, you're telling me this?
Right.
You
But
know,
I think
just-
what you said earlier was interesting. Again, another thing from Sheryl Sandberg's book, but you just said it, how sometimes it's important just to say, that fucking sucks.
that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And that's how I approach
That sucks.
death.
Not like I have a friend
No.
or, have you tried this? Or, maybe this.
Oh, it'll work
it's
out.
just, no, just like, you know what? I hear what you're saying and that sucks.
sucks.
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
Because you don't want
Done.
a solution in that time. You just want someone to understand you're in pain over this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sucks.
You want someone to understand that pain and validate it.
Yeah, and validate
and
it.
validate it and care for it in a certain
Care
way.
for it, to what you're saying too, Leanne. Yeah.
Just to take care, to take care.
And your solutions are valid. I appreciate you coming with solutions, but I didn't ask for solutions.
Right.
I asked for understanding at that time.
Right.
You know what? Now that I'm thinking about this in a broader spectrum, I had an aunt that had cancer. I was really close to her. She had uterine cancer. She passed away from it.
I'm sorry.
And
That sucks.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
It did
That
suck.
fucking sucks.
That
It
fucking sucks.
sucks more than you even know. I was very close to her. But I remember in my own panic, have you looked into immune therapy?
Yeah.
Have you looked into, and now sitting here describing how I should be, I wasn't that for her. I wanted a solution because I wanted her here.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I must have at some point, because it's my natural inclination, have said those things like, I am so sorry. This is really is terrible and you don't deserve this and you shouldn't be going through this. But I remember so many phone calls going, so I heard this story on NPR. And what they say is, you should go to the Mayo Clinic. And, she never took my advice, of course. But I'm really glad I just learned that about myself, that
Sometimes
is.
that's all you need to say. And then
Yeah.
for that person to be like, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank
That's
you.
all
It
they
does
need.
suck.
Yeah.
It does suck. Yeah, that's a really good thing to learn. Thank you,
Yeah.
ladies.
But it's so simple.
It is so
It's
simple.
like, it's such a simple thought, and it's kind of what everyone's thinking anyways, but no one wants to say it, and it actually is helpful.
Very helpful. It's either what they're thinking, or they have the other inclination. I want to fix. I want to
Yeah.
help.
Right. And
What can I
that's-
do to help?
And that sentiment is a lovely sentiment.
Yeah, it's
I don't
very
wanna,
noble.
After the it fucking sucks. That fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Let me know how I can help.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me
And-
know how I can
yeah,
help.
Right.
Let me know
That's
how I
great.
can help or what I can do.
That's
Because that
great.
fucking blows.
Yeah.
It does
And that
blow.
person's like, I need a casserole. It's
Yeah,
like, you
right.
never know. I need someone to take me to the doctor. Or,
I need a
"Do you-
casserole."
what do you know about IVF? And they're like,
Right.
oh, my friend Jen knows everything. Please introduce me to Jen. It's like that opens the lines of communication for more.
Right.
Right.
As opposed to people trying to fix you all the time. Because
Yeah.
then you're broken. They're implying something's wrong with you.
and
Right.
you're probably in your specific situation already feeling broken.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, all on
my
your
body's
own.
not cooperating.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you feel this way. Like, my body has not cooperated since I miscarried that fetus in May 5th, 2014. Like, it is just, it's done some stuff right. Like, I got some embryos. That's great. It's a win. But like, it's not put us to whatever the end goal is supposed to be. And it's been really hard to get what we have. Like, it took me 3 years to get what we have.
Right.
Like, unrelenting, just trying different things, bailing out of stuff, paying for the meds, having to not do that cycle, losing that money, starting over, just like, and it's just this constant kind of cycle of disappointment.
Right.
It's a cycle.
It is a cycle. It's truly, it actually follows a woman's menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
So it's, if you have a healthy menstrual cycle and you get a period 12 times a year, like, you've got 12 months that are viable months that you can do, and not every month works.
Right.
So it truly, I mean, it literally is a physical cycle.
But your life then revolves around it.
Your life
Because
revolves.
You have to be at
You
the doctor
are at the
every
mercy
day.
of your
You're
cycle.
At the mercy. Everything
on day
is scales
2, you
around
go to
it.
the doctor
Yeah.
for blood work and ultrasound. On day 4, you do this. Like, so, and everything. And if you miss a month, like if you're out of town on a month
Yeah.
where you're supposed to start something, you lose the whole month.
You lose that
Wow.
opportunity. That opportunity
Oh,
is
lose the whole
gone.
month by March.
How stressful.
It's
It's crazy.
like I would be like, okay, so we'd have I'd be the doctor. I need your earliest appointment every morning for that because, like, you've still got to work. You have a job to do.
Yeah.
you can't take all this time off work. So it's like we'd be there at the 7 o'clock appointment every chance we got, and we're there. And it's like you try to get the earliest morning, and you're there, and like you're like, okay, you did this arm yesterday. Do this arm for blood this day because
goodness.
I'm out of veins on this arm. Use this one.
Right.
And it's like you're just like beat up all the
Yeah.
time. You're at the mercy of your cycle.
Yeah, you really are.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, and it's crazy because for women, what has to happen scientifically to have a baby, and what men has to happen scientifically. I mean, truly, like Cliff Notes. You go in on day 2 of your cycle, you have an ultrasound, you get your blood work taken, you get drugs prescribed, you put 2 shots in your body every day, you go back for tracking, you grow these eggs, your body has to grow them in the follicles then have to the eggs have to pop out of the follicles, and they have to go down your fallopian tube and to get taken out, and then they have to fertilize, and then your body has to implant them, and literally
bed rest.
your husband, all he's got to do is go to the
jack off.
jerk off
Yeah, in a
room,
cup.
right.
did it in a cup, and that's it.
And it's
Okay,
Nothing else.
Rio would
And then,
not
by the
let
way,
that die.
if it works, then you have to carry that child
I know.
for 10 months and get fat
And-
Yep.
and like squeeze it out.
Oh, not only
yeah.
get fat, get hemorrhoids, get
All of
get
it.
acid
Yes.
reflux, get
But, like,
forget
truly,
it.
and a man just has to ejaculate.
No, and Rio would
fuck?
always,
Yeah.
I'd be the doctor every day doing all this stuff. I'm creaming my pants with liners. And we'd be talking to friends like who were like knew we were going through and asking about it. He's like, yeah, they made me like go in this room and it's so uncomfortable. And they have porn.
And there's porn.
And I'm looking at him going, stop talking now. Just
I know,
stop
right?
talking. You got to
So,
climax.
wah,
I
sorry
have like
for you.
artificial stuff just up inside me
Sorry
every
for
day.
you.
Right. Wah,
I have like
wah,
cold
right?
metal up inside
Although
me
I
all
will
the time.
say, like, you think about there's like that one room with the TV and
Oh,
the
it's so
magazines,
gross.
and like the guy they put like a paper down, like that paper you put on like the
They do,
and
like
the
they-
guys just have to go in there like one after another.
They let
my
Rio
God.
do it at home and bring it in. They let Rio do it at home and
Oh,
bring it in.
I
I was like,
love it.
you didn't have to go in there.
No,
Right.
ours you have to like do it in there. Oh, it's kind of gross. You
So
see the
gross.
men when they go in, and you're just like, oh my god,
It's the walk of shame.
oh my god, it is the
Yeah.
walk of
It's
shame.
the walk of shame. I know what you're doing in that room.
That's right.
Dude,
That's
I would
crazy.
shame like
Game
Game
of
of Thrones.
Game of
style.
Thrones.
Shame.
Shame.
Like that's your one job.
Yeah.
Bring on the shame. Well,
I
it doesn't
know.
change a lot when the baby
Yeah.
comes. There's
Yeah.
a whole lot of mom.
Yeah, I think it is like for Goldie, and I'm sure I don't know if it's the same for Rio. Like he does feel bad. Like he wants to do so much more,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
can't. Like
No.
it's so much on the woman. It's just the way that our bodies are built.
And I
It's
couldn't
like
imagine the helplessness they feel.
they feel so
like,
helpless.
You know, I know like Rio texts me every day for the past month,
Yeah.
and every day says, "Call the doctor, call the doctor, call the doctor," because I told him, I go, I'm at my limit with this. I can't be the one pushing for all this. He's like, well, you need to it's your choice. It's everything. It's like I want you to take the lead because you have to do all the brunt of it. I go, yeah, but I can't then take the lead on making these decisions to do it again.
Yeah,
Right.
feel
I
the
need
exact
like
same way.
support, and it's because like I just kind of reached my 9 years. I kind of reached my like
I can't believe
emotional investment of like I need
Yeah.
someone then to push me to do this.
Yeah.
And he texts me every day, call the doctor, call the doctor, call the
Aw.
doctor. And I mean I haven't called him.
Yeah.
But
But you're
still,
going to call her doctor.
I'm gonna call
Yeah.
her doctor.
The mini
I'll call your
IV.
doctor. Yes,
The
I'm
IVF
gonna give you
doctor.
this information.
I am.
It's not even my doctor. It's the friends of a friend's
Yeah.
doctor.
I'm
of
gonna
a
call the
friend.
unicorn's
Yeah.
doctor.
It was interesting though because Goldie has come with me to pretty much every appointment unless he's been out of town, and our doctors are like giving him a gold badge because he's there every day.
That's
and
what
you're
our
like,
doctor said too.
like that women go in there all the time
by
without
themselves.
their husbands, and I'm just like, it's something like even though it's our bodies, it's something you're trying to do
yeah,
together, and
together.
it makes me so sad to think that people don't have that support.
I thought
Right.
the
It
same
like
thing.
hurts my heart to think someone doesn't have that support from their partner, that like
Right.
they're in there doing it all by themselves.
Yeah.
Our doctor
And-
said the same thing to us. They're like, it is incredible. He shows up to every
Yeah.
appointment, and I'm like, what do you mean? And like, and we'd be in the waiting room, be women by themselves.
Yeah. I mean,
And
some
it's-
women do it by themselves, and
yeah.
that's
that's
amazing.
fine. That's their choice.
Yeah.
But like, if they were doing it with a partner,
Yeah.
like that's the only chance that partner can be a part of it.
Yeah.
Like that's the only time they can feel less helpless is to sit in that room and hold your hand.
That's
Right.
absolutely right.
And hear about all the problems you have going on inside.
Right. Because it is both of your problems.
Well, it
It
is.
is.
Yeah.
Even though it's on us. Like
Yeah.
and that's not, it's physical. It's just,
yeah,
the
it's
way
just
we're made.
scientific. It's not biological, or it is
Yeah.
biological. It's crazy.
yeah.
So you think you're gonna hitch back up to the horse?
I'd like to.
I think
I'd
you
like to
should.
hitch back up that horse.
You guys would be the best parents.
Thank you.
You guys would be such great
I mean, he'd be
parents.
much better
You're
than me.
here.
And plus, Teddy needs a girlfriend or a
Right?
boyfriend. I don't care.
Something.
Yeah.
Something.
So.
You, I don't know you as well, Jen,
Yeah.
but you seem like you would be a really great mom.
No, Jen would be an
thanks.
amazing
Yeah,
mother.
you seem like
and
it.
Thanks.
I think our kids would be the best
They're
of
going
friends.
to be best of friends.
They would be so fun.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can give her one of your eggs.
Yeah, that's right.
I know. I mean,
That's
you're
right.
adorable. I'd totally take your
I would take yours too. Yeah.
So, is there anything besides your low dose mini IVF thing that you've learned that you would like to share? Anything you've learned where you went, I did this for a while and it was a big mistake, or anything like that?
Well, there's so much, but number one is once you're in the infertility bucket, then when they call it unexplained or whatever it is, you have like, they say in the beginning, like a 7% chance of getting pregnant naturally. And when you do an IUI, which is turkey baster, it's only like 9%. So
Yeah.
it really does
The
not
odds are
increase your
non- yeah.
chances. And it's a lot of work, and it's money, and it's not that expensive. It's like,
IUIs
it's
average
nothing
like
in comparison to
$5,000 a
IVF.
shot.
It's no big deal.
You mean
it also depends. Like I would do
IU
my IUIs without drugs because I was ovulating.
Oh, see, I didn't
so
have
mine
that
were
option.
cheaper.
Oh, mine are like
Yeah.
minimum 5,000.
Yeah. So like this IUI thing, like some doctors will make you do 3 or 4 before you move on to IVF. And I think in that point, you're just really hopeful you don't have to do IVF.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I look back, I mean, I don't know how many I did over the years. But
we could have gone
it's
straight to IVF
just a
for all the
waste.
IUIs we did.
Are you
IUIs
you're
are
talking
just
about the IUIs?
Yes.
Okay.
Like the
Turkey
turkey
baster.
baster.
Because it's only a 2% higher chance
Yeah,
of getting
than, like, getting
pregnant
pregnant
naturally. So then
naturally.
don't waste your time. Is
Yeah,
that what
but
you're
you know
saying?
what it worked. Like I have a friend, a good girlfriend of mine who had IUIs with both of her kids because her husband's sperm, they test it for like more motility and morphology and all this stuff, and like her husband's sperm maybe like swam in circles
That
instead of
is
swimming
beneficial when
straight,
they do test
and the
it.
IUI just puts the sperm right there, and it
Right.
helps. She got pregnant with IUIs on both of her kids. I know other people who it works for, but I kind of feel like you do 1 or 2 and it doesn't work. Like move on and don't waste your time because it's time.
Yeah.
It's money and it's time, and it's again you only have so many times a month that you can do this. It's
Right.
not unlimited.
Right.
Um,
Well, it sounds like you're obviously not a doctor, but it sounds like if the sperm is an issue, then IUI is probably
it's
Yeah.
the easiest solution to that.
right.
the easiest
It just
solution.
deposits
Right.
it right where it needs to
Right.
It
So-
bypasses the hostile mucus.
Right. It bypasses everything, right? It goes straight to the source.
go. Yeah.
I'll say that since my journey's been, I hate saying the word journey, but my experience has been such a long one. Our culture's changed so much in the time I started to the time now. And self-care has now become like a big thing now. And because I did like the Reiki, it's pronounced Reiki, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Reiki, where it's like they take crystals and they
energy.
they cleanse your
Energy
aura
manipulation,
cleansing. I
yeah.
did sound baths, I did acupuncture, the teas, like I did all that stuff. And I really wish I would have started that stuff earlier.
Oh, yeah?
Because I was so uptight, and your mental state and your emotional state is so important. I think to keep that balance and really kind of go into it going, no, I'm just going to take care of myself. And it was expensive, like half the cost of like, for everything I put in medically, I would put in like a percentage holistically.
Right.
Like I really tried to
too.
balance it
Yeah.
and really tried to like keep my mental stability intact. And I think, coming out of it, whatever I do, I'm going in, and I don't know if I'm older and wiser, but
Probably a little bit.
I think I'm a lot older and wiser, but
You're
or I
definitely
know,
older.
excuse me, I know I'm a
Definitely
lot
older,
older
yeah.
and wiser. I know I'm older and wiser. Apparently not wiser because I can't put words together, but I think going in with that clear head and clear mind of like knowing that there's no guarantees and you're emotionally invested, but just going in, not relaxed because you're never relaxed,
Right.
but stable
right.
and a little more open to, this may not work or this may work. Either way, I'm going to be okay at the end of it.
Right.
This isn't going to break me, and it's not going to break us.
Right.
But I think you get a lot of that perspective on the backside of it. Like I'm much
Yes.
more mellow about this all now. Like my sister's just starting with this process, and I have tons of other people. I feel like I've become the resource, which sometimes is annoying, where I'm
Right.
like, I am the wealth of knowledge, and I wind up
I
helping.
love it because I don't have to look anything up. I just call you.
Well, no, this is great. We're great, but like I've helped so many people with their process, and like then they move on, and I'm still stuck, and that's been really hard. Where you're like,
imagine.
you know, we're like people that when I was pregnant that were pregnant with me, like their kids now are like 4 years old, and I was pregnant when they were pregnant. So it's like those are these weird reminders. Or you know, I was in this process for 2 years, and then my friends, you know, across the country like did their IVF, and then they had their kids, and now their kids are 1.5.
That's the hardest
you know, it's
part
like
for me.
it's that timing
I get
thing
that.
where you're kind of just
I
like
100% see that.
like everyone is moving forward.
Yeah, like you go to their wedding. You remember when they were dating, and you
and like you're already married,
you
you're already
been married.
trying.
Yeah, and you've already been trying, and you went to you're like, let's take a break and go to their wedding, and maybe we'll conceive at their wedding, and then you go to their wedding, and now they're 3 kids deep.
Yeah,
and you're just like, seriously?
Yeah, totally.
That would be really hard. I just understand what you're saying about being in that next phase of life too, because when you have kids, it truly is a completely new experience in every facet of your life, with your career, with your marriage, with your family outside of your, you know, your family you just created. It's everything shifts, and which is really for the better, but it is not necessary. It is like a strong growing curve where everybody grows and changes, and it's very enriching. And as you were saying that, I was like, I wonder how you get that if you don't have kids. How does that happen for you? Especially because what I heard you say before was you really want that, not just the child. The child is what gives you that, you know, being a family in that way, but that you want to be enriched in that way.
We start questioning everything. People are like, oh, you don't know what love, you don't know how much you can love something until you have children. Like people
I do not agree with that.
And I'm just like, what does that mean? I don't know how to love?
No,
like,
I don't agree with that.
Am I cold-hearted then?
I don't agree with that.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. I adore, love my children.
Your kids are all right.
But they're pretty great. But I believe love is love. I really do. I believe that love is love. And I love my children. Obviously, I love my husband romantically, but if you remove the romantic part of it, that love is the same as the love for my children, for me anyway. It's just a very deep, almost like ethereal feeling. So there's no romance attached to that love, and that love applies to all the people that I value in that way.
Thank you for that perspective.
Well, I really feel that way. I have some girlfriends that I love so much, and not like a, you must be my girlfriend forever, but like I just so appreciate them. And it's the same exact vein. It's the same thing. It's just, I think people, maybe that's other people's experience, but my experience of loving my children is it's a repeat of how I love my husband. So I just have that with 3 people instead of 1. But I would never want to imagine life without my kids, obviously. But if I go, this is where I've been thinking. Eventually they're going away and I'm not going to see them. So the reciprocity of love is not going to be in my house with those 2 people. Obviously I always love them, be connected with them, but that's not where, I'm not going to have them all the time. And I actually feel like I'll miss them. But I already have that with Bert. Like it's the same exact thing. So it's not like I'm going to have this big loss and oh my God, this love is leaving. They're not really leaving. It's just shifting around, you know? I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. I don't know. And maybe I'm an idiot, but that's just my experience of love, is that love is love.
You're not an idiot. That's your perception.
Everywhere.
That's your feeling. I think that's great.
So if I would... Again, not want to imagine life without my kids, but imagine if I hadn't have them. I still have that with Bert. So, but the experiences, the patience required for a child is very different than the patience required for a husband, and the communication skills required for a child, and the management of your own emotions are totally different when you have children. That's the enriching piece. I don't know how you would get if you didn't have children.
Yeah.
Because Isla Kreischer is my clone. And people don't think that. But if they think she's just like Bert, that is the stubbornest little asshole on this planet.
Physically, she is your clone.
No, I am the stubbornest big asshole you've ever known, and you just don't know that. I hide it very well. But when she and I are together, I have to, it forces me to look at myself and go, wow, I'm kind of an asshole sometimes, because she's doing exactly what I do, and I don't like that when I watch her do it. So now I have to watch myself do that and stop doing that.
But what an amazing thing that you have that life
You
experience.
can see that
Like, I
reflection
think
of yourself in something.
But that's the enrichment
That more
you're-
than anything
Yes.
is like I don't see like, oh, I'm gonna have this baby.
Yes.
But what I'm seeking is this life experience,
Right.
which you're describing,
Yes.
which is like learning about myself through this relationship that I would have if I had a child.
That's right.
So
You had said earlier, you said when you were pregnant, you wanted to connect, and because you said you didn't feel pregnant. Through this whole thing, it's like donor eggs were brought up to us like a couple years ago by my doctor, and I was like, I'm not there yet. I can't do that because I felt I couldn't attach, or I wouldn't identify with this child because it's not mine.
Right.
And I was like, I need that bonding time to understand it, and because it took me a while to wrap my brain around it. And the more I think about it, I'm like, you know what? I'm down for that. It's fine. I can do this. And same with adoption. I'm like, I don't know if I go, like, everyone's like, oh, once they put the kid in your arms, it's yours and you won't look back. But I very much struggle with that. I very much struggle if I'll have that bond or like feel that connection with that kid straight off the bat. And this is like a horrible thing to equate a human to, but like we adopted our cat. We found him on the streets.
Right.
And he was a kid, and he came over, and I was just like, oh, he's a cute little fur ball. That cat, I would like jump in traffic for.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I birthed that stupid fur ball.
Yeah.
He's horribly abusive. So I really feel like it's a real
It's very dysfunctional
parent-child
relationship.
relationship. No, but it's like those are real concerns, and it's like I was looking into fertility and adoption and donor egg support groups and I was talking to a friend. There's this organization called Adopt Together, and it's kind of like a GoFundMe page for adoption, because when you're pregnant when you're physically pregnant, everyone sees that transformation. They see your progression. They know your due date. They can they follow along your progress.
Right.
When you're adopting, you just show up with a kid one day.
Right.
Like people aren't a part of that progress. So Adopt Together is like a platform where you can make it a GoFundMe and have people support you throughout the process, or you can just give them updates on like, we found a a family that's selected us and they're this much far along, and it's a boy, or you can like share that with people, and it makes it more of a community. But with them, they offer like this whole plethora of support, like support groups, because a big concern of mine was like, will I attach to this kid? Will I have bonding issues?
Right.
How would I will I love this kid? Like that's a very real concern.
Totally get
Absolutely.
that.
And I would wonder if it would make you feel the loss of not having your own in a different way.
Right.
Because
Totally.
you go, this is not mine. This is
Right.
not what I wanted, or this is
Right.
not what not that you didn't want the child.
No, but it's like,
that
yeah.
this was not what I was trying to
Yeah.
accomplish.
Exactly.
It was, and I understand why you would feel that way, very much so.
It
would
it's
be
like
very
you're just
scary.
pulled in every direction, and like
Yeah.
you have so many questions and concerns. It's like, and then like I'm still on the fence with the donor eggs.
Yeah.
It's like you just don't know if like I thought with the donor egg, at least I'd bond with it. There's a whole also thing with medical tourism. Like there's a big business where if
what?
you travel to like Cancun, and you get donor eggs from those locations, because
What?
because it's like a fraction of the price too.
Oh, I would imagine, but
Like people go to different places abroad, but we actually looked into the Cancun thing, but after Zika, we're like, we're not going down there. Like,
Right.
that was just not an option.
no.
But it's like a huge business, this medical tour. Like people go and get like hip replacements in Switzerland because it's like half the cost or fraction of the price. But when it comes to fertility, egg donor and surrogacy is huge abroad. Like a
Did
lot
not
of people
know
are
that.
doing it.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking into surrogacy right now, and it's similar too, because it's like you kind of, well, first of all, you wake up one day and you're like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
Where you're like, you just think you're going to have a baby one day and it's going to be yours, and you like birthed it yourself. And then, all these things that are super uncomfortable
Yeah.
to think about and talk about.
Yeah.
And I mean, even more think about than talk about, where you're just like, did I want to be at this place right now? Like, no, I would have never chosen this path, but this path kind of chose me. But like, we've spent a lot of time with friends who've done surrogacy, and we've had a lot of dinners with friends who've adopted their kids. Like, we've been doing a lot of information gathering over the past like year or so, just trying to figure out our limits. Like, what are our limits at this? Like, where are we comfortable and where are we not? And like, what are our values? And like, even though I felt so great and loved pregnancy, again, totally surprised me. After all this time, like I don't feel the need anymore to be pregnant myself. Like I don't feel the need to carry. Like it's not a life experience I feel like I have to have.
Plans change. As you go
My
through this whole
plans,
thing,
your plans change.
You evolve.
Exactly right.
That's the part where you are evolving.
Yeah.
You become more open to more opportunities.
That's totally right. But like for us, so my father passed away when I was a baby, and I never knew him. I was 15 months old. He died
wow.
of
that fucking sucks.
cancer.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That blows.
Yeah, that does suck.
But I think for me, what is so tied into this need for a biological child, not just a child, is this connection to my father that I never had. And
Right.
like, I'm the only child from my mom and my dad. My mom went on to remarry and have 2 kids. So I have a sister and brother from her second marriage. But I have no connection to him. Because I didn't know him and I didn't grow up with him, and he doesn't really have a whole lot of family left. And so for me, I think if I can have a biological child, that like maybe I'll learn something about my dad that I didn't ever get to know.
Interesting.
And so like that is what is the only, like that's the thing that drives me now is
Right.
like,
I get that.
and it's not like we've explored adoption. Like for us, I think I'm kind of at this place now where I'm like, I think I'm okay not having kids. So if I'm going to have a kid, I want the biological connection. And to me, it's like this thing I've been seeking my whole life. Like when you don't get to know your parents, you seek that connection always because you don't have it. So like that's what I'm seeking through this. And which is why it was like so important for us to like keep going with the retrievals and try to get these embryos made and like try. And you know, Goldie would have been fine adopting. He would have been fine with donor sperm, donor eggs, whatever. He wants the experience of being a parent.
Right.
And for me, I'm like seeking this connection that really only exists in my mind in this one form. And maybe that's not even true. Like if I adopted a kid, maybe, you know, there'd be some mythical or spiritual connection. I don't know. But in my mind, that's like what I'm stuck on.
But that genetic connection's I think that's very valid.
Yeah.
I do too. I think it's really valid. And you know, it's very healing to watch a child that you're biologically connected with. I know you probably don't know this about me, but my mom is not well. She's not well mentally. And so as I grew up, I was always told in a very real dysfunctional way not to be who I am. So I wasn't really allowed a voice. I couldn't really, and I don't mean like I didn't get to say, hey mom, that sucks. I mean, I didn't really talk much.
Yeah.
It was really, my mom has a personality disorder. So there's a different level of control and oppression that happens with that. So when I had Isla, I had no oppression on who she was. I had boundaries, but oppression is different than boundaries. Like you will not think this thing is very different than, you know, you think differently than me, and that's okay. And to watch Isla become who she is, did 2 things for me. It made me extremely sad and full of grief for my childhood. And it made me understand who I really was. And even though I sort of knew who I really was, I hadn't felt that little girl in a long time. So it was incredibly healing. So what I think would happen for you may be the same thing, is that would be incredibly healing to say, this is part of who my dad was.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And now I can heal that loss, which you couldn't have felt like someone who lost their dad who really knew their dad, but still felt that he's missing my whole life.
Right.
He's totally not there.
Right. And like 50% of my DNA is this person that
You never knew,
tragically passed away at 28 years old. So it's like
That's
you just
terrible.
I don't have. So I've always been seeking this connection, and I
Completely
presume he's
understand.
spiritually somewhere. I don't know where, but like and maybe is somehow has a hand in this process in some ways. Who knows? But for me, I'm kind of like, I think for me, it's like biological kid or bust, and like. We explored everything, and I think like now I know my limits, and after having so many conversations with people who've done it every which way, and I think I've kind of now figured out like, okay, where's my comfort level, and what do I need to get out of this, or where am I willing to throw in the towel and say, okay, it's not in the cards for us, and that's okay. And I think it's totally different for everyone, and it's not that I like have not anything against like I don't have to carry myself or like egg donor or sperm donor, but it's like, I don't think that's my path. And if I can't do it, I think that's okay. And we'll be fine. Like, we're going to be okay.
And I think that's actually really commendable on your part to kind of identify that, like these are the things I want.
It's taking a lot of
I'm
work.
okay. if this is the end game
Result,
of it.
right.
Yeah, it's like,
Because at some point you have to say like, where do you stop?
yeah,
Right.
And that's what's really interesting about this too, because I was talking about it with Goldie even just this week, like, because we have these 3 embryos left, and we started just this week, it's like perfect timing, started to explore like surrogacy. We reached out to a couple agencies that our doctor's office recommends, and we got some information, and it's really overwhelming. Like it's bonkers how, I mean, it's wildly expensive and incredibly overwhelming, and the things you have to think about with it, like, it's just crazy.
Like what?
Like, I mean, I could show you on my phone these, like, they send you like the breakdown of the, like, the chart on
there's
what
like
it
different
costs.
levels, right? Like you can pay for this person's entire life.
No, well, it depends. We go to like a souped up doctor's agency in town, and a doctor's office in town, and they like, we're probably paying more than everyone else for just to be
we
with our
did the same
doctor.
too.
And like, but we graduated to this doctor. We didn't start with this doctor. I've been to 4 fertility doctors, and like I graduated to the guy who like invented IVF.
Oh, wow.
But just because you like over time, you just kind of
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You're like, at first you do it cheap, and then you're like, okay, cheap didn't work, so now I'm gonna just like throw money at it, and then all of a sudden you're with like the guy who's the most expensive. But like, I'm sure the agencies that they recommend are like, they're
The top of the
they're
line,
primo,
yeah.
but they're like, it's $110,000 to $130,000, not including like the first part. So in the beginning, when you first get your surrogate and you do like the transfer, you transfer your embryos into them. Like when you go to the doctor's office, like where normally you'd pay for that for yourself,
Right.
you have to pay for that on top of
For her.
this 130 or 110, let's say. You're also paying for all those doctor's appointments in the beginning on top of that. So
Right.
Which are all out of pocket. Like insurance won't
yeah,
touch it.
I haven't. I am lucky. I would just say, just for disclosure, like I have had insurance coverage, which is what has helped me.
Oh, that's
it's not
amazing.
100%. I mean, I've paid an insane amount of money out of pocket to do this, but I've gotten a lot of money back from my insurance. But my company has it, so your insurance caps. So they give you a certain amount of money, and there's a lifetime cap. So once you hit the cap, there's a cap for procedure and a cap for drugs. And once you hit those caps, you're done.
You're done.
So, but it's been something. Like
Right.
they
Yeah.
give us $25,000 for procedures and $15,000 for meds.
Wow.
And then
capped
there's so I am what's the word I'm looking for? I'm like scheming the system. So there's 2 different, we have it through Aetna and through United Healthcare, and I capped out my United Healthcare, and then the person in my company was like, don't tell anyone, but if you just switch to Aetna, it starts over. So I started over on Aetna, so I'm like halfway through
Nice.
the second.
Good job.
So I've gotten money back. We've spent, I'm sure, I don't even know how much, $30,000-$40,000 out of pocket in addition to the money I've gotten back.
yeah,
Right.
we're like just over like I think 60,000 out
Yeah,
of pocket.
I have no idea. I mean, we don't keep I don't even want to know. It's like,
We actually found out because our accountant, when we were doing our taxes, goes,
Yeah.
did you have any medical
out of
bills?
pocket medical expenses, right?
And we're like, yeah. And he goes, put it all on a spreadsheet for me. And I think we got like, I want to say a few thousand back, but we were like ecstatic over that few thousand we got back in
Right.
taxes. We
Yeah.
were like, oh my God.
so great.
We're like, we just, that's
You're like, I just got 1 shot of Gonal F.
yeah. I mean, and actually, I had friends that were like giving me their drugs.
Yeah,
and
I've
we
done
had
that too.
doctors
Me too.
that the nurses there were giving us samples of
They do
drugs.
that too.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
you'd go to the pharmacy and they're all, that'll be $3,500 for 1 week set of drugs.
Oh my God.
And then you
yeah.
go back the next week because
Yeah.
they up your prescription,
It's
they up your
crazy.
dosage, and then that'll be $4,000.
That's
At least
so
your new mini
crazy.
IVF cycle will be cheaper on the drugs.
Yeah, exactly. We put actually all of it on, and we paid everything off every month. Like, thankfully, we had
You
savings.
got miles. You go on vacation
We put it
with
all
it?
on our miles. We went
That's
to Portugal for a wedding with our miles.
Oh, that's right. We talked about your
Yeah.
Portugal trip, right?
We put it all on miles and all on our credit card with miles. And so then after like 4 years, because we put our life on hold, we stopped going to things.
Yeah.
You know, we people like, 'cause you never know.
You're at the mercy
make
of your
plans
cycle.
like I could be pregnant or like I could do this, and they're like, oh, do
or
you
I may
wanna-
have a procedure,
with
or I may have to
procedure
start a
with this,
cycle,
yeah.
or
'Cause, like,
if
our
I miss
friends
that
would be
day,
like,
miss a whole month.
Come to our
Oh my
timeshare in
gosh.
Cabo, and we're like, no, we can't afford the plane ticket because all our money's going to this, and also we may be in the middle of something at that time. Like that's going to be during. We can't promise anything.
Right.
And so we put our life on hold for so long, and after like 5 years, we're like, let's just start doing everything again, and we started cashing in all our miles and eating out and going on vacation.
That's actually, I will say, just to jump back for a second, I'm happy to get back into if you want to talk about the surrogacy thing more, or if you don't. But when you said before, is there one thing you would want people to know? And I like jumped into like IUI technical stuff. I think that's actually the best advice I could give anyone, which is like, when you do this, you kind of like naturally have to put your life on hold.
Right.
And you go out. For me, I went through a couple years where I was like, I can't go to my friend's wedding because I'm going to do a cycle this month, or I don't know where I'm going to be. So I was like I just missed so much, and I just was at the mercy of my body.
Right.
And then a couple years in, I was like, fuck that.
That's exactly what you
I
said.
am turning the shit around, and I'm gonna live my life,
Right.
and I'm gonna let this work into my life instead of letting this run
Okay.
my life.
That's-
And we just changed our whole perception on it, and it changed everything. And it's just like, you need to stop thinking of like, I might be this, or I might be doing this, or I might be pregnant, or I might this, or I could be that. Like all of that nexting is like so bad for your psyche.
Yeah.
It's like, this process, I don't know if you feel this way, it is truly, it's almost like meditation. It's like the way to make it work mentally is to just be in the moment. Like
Right.
Yeah,
you cannot
100%.
think about 3 hours from now or tomorrow or yesterday or whatever it is. You just have to be where you are at that moment. And
Right.
if not, your life just shuts down.
And not make it work, meaning like you said, you have all these people that have the positive outcome, because we're here with non-positive outcomes.
Right.
But I think the positive
no
takeaway,
outcomes.
no outcome.
Yes.
Thank you. I think the positive outcome is you're not making it work. You're making it work for you.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you're surviving it.
That's
right.
You're getting through it.
Yes.
And
Right.
that's the way to get
And
through
it can coexist. Like it can be this thing that coexists with all the other good stuff that's going on in your life. Like,
Right.
and I see it take so many people down and ruin marriages, and like people are different. And of course you're going to be like, you are shooting yourself up with hormones. It is not natural. Your mind is going to be crazy.
Right.
But like, if you can just say, okay, this is this thing I'm dealing with, but then my life is still goes on, and it's up to me to make the rest of my life like really enriched and beautiful. Like you can do that. I mean, I can say I am a testament to that. And it was a mental change I had to make to stop letting it run my life and to take control of it in that way.
Exact same.
So I don't know if you know this about me either, but I studied acting in New York for 2
I
years.
did not know that.
I lived in New York for 4 years. I'm a Meisner trained actress.
Wow.
I don't know what that means,
that's
but it sounds
major.
really
Oh,
impressive.
Sanford Meisner is one of the big
Mage.
acting teachers. Mage, very mage. But there's a saying, Meisner wasn't my teacher, he was dead, but his person he trained used to say, in acting, you make things happen and then you let things happen. So if you're worried about what's going to happen, you're not in the moment. You have to make things happen and then you just let things happen. So you shoot the drugs and then you let it happen. And then you go in for your treatment and then you let it happen. And I think that phrase has repeated in my brain for 20 some years now is so helpful to keep yourself in the moment.
Yeah.
You do the
That's
work.
all you have.
That's all
and
you
then you
have.
let it go.
Right.
Because if you do the work and you let it go, what's supposed to happen will happen. If you're doing all your stuff right, if you're not, screwing up to make things happen, part of it. Crazy
Yeah, that's
process
good.
for you ladies. That's been crazy, huh?
I mean, it's not crazy. Anything worth doing is anything good is, you put the work in, it's worth it. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. You know what
I
I'm
know
trying
what
to say.
you're trying to say. It's
Yeah.
totally worth it.
Yeah. I mean,
It's worth it. Now, even if you make the decision, you know what? We're not going to do this anymore. We're done. Done.
if nothing else comes out of this, Rio and I really went through it all together and came out stronger in the end.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's exactly what
and I learned
say
a lot
and
about
feel.
myself.
Do you
Yeah.
do you feel like projecting into the future now that I just said
Yeah.
let's stay in the moment, or we did?
No, we'll go with you on this journey.
yeah.
What do you think you'd have any regrets?
That's a really hard question. I grapple with that every day.
Every day.
You do.
That's actually the question is like, okay, no, we again just said we're going to sit in the moment, but there's a finite amount of time that a woman can do this. Like men can do it into their like 60s, 70s, whatever.
Until
they're
they're
so
dead.
annoying.
Forever.
They're just like this pesky men. But for a woman, like we're considered geriatric in this in this process.
We're high risk geriatric
Yeah.
pregnancy right
Yeah,
now. If that's gonna
exactly.
happen.
And
When that's gonna
people have kids like at 45, 46, whatever, but that's not the norm. And like
way
I
to go,
say the
Halle
clock
Berry.
is ticking. Like I'm not a clock is ticking person, but like our clock, the time limit on this is like
Biologically.
we're there biologically, truly
Yeah.
biologically.
Yeah,
like
truly.
we're there. And I think that it's really hard to try to project forward and figure out what am I going to regret? Like if I look back in 15 years, is there going to be a hole in my heart if I don't get a family the way that I thought I would? Or are we going to be just so happy that we have each other and we travel and we have a full life? And like, I don't know, like, are we going to look back if we have a kid? And this is maybe an unpopular thought, but like, and again, to the podcast of yours that I was listening to on the way here, like if we look back and you have a kid and I'm like, oh, this is what I wished for. Like, like, fuck my life. Like, you know, I just upended everything that was working to like get this thing. And I don't even know, like, I don't know who I'm going to be in that. So it's like, I don't, all of it feels incredibly uncertain. But I think what scares me the most, well, a couple of things. One of the things that scares me the most is like, you look down the barrel of your life. We obviously have no idea how long we're going to live. But when this process forces you to think of your mortality. And, you know, I lost my dad. He was 28. So there's no guarantees. So I'm like, if Goldie and I could just be Romeo and Juliet and drink potion when we're 85 and die at the same time, then like, great, I don't need a kid. And this is super selfish to say, but I'm like, what happens if one of us goes first and like we're each other's family and that's all we have and there's like no one there, not to take care of me, but like no
love.
one there to love. Yeah, exactly.
I have these same thoughts.
And it like I'm panicked. Like my hands are sweating talking about this, and it's like, you know, it's really hard to know what any of this is going to look like. But I think that scares me so much. And I think looking back when I'm too old to truly be able to do this, where like adoption would be my only option, and that's an amazing option, but like where my body won't do it anymore, and then regretting that I didn't do everything I could. Right. And like that's where I'm at now, where we look at the surrogacy thing and I'm like, ugh, this seems horrible and awful, and like the whole process, and like rent a womb. Yeah, like for a year of your life, you like are hiring someone to carry your child, and that person, it's like, it all feels so uncomfortable, both emotionally and financially. But I'm like, okay, so it's that, or it's just saying, fuck it, we give up and we're done. Or like I keep, you know, trying the same thing that's not working, which is like keep trying to implant and my body's not doing it. Like, that's kind of it. That's what we got.
I think you have to change the mentality of the terms. Like you just said, do we give up? And I keep saying like, I can't think of it as giving up but moving on.
Right.
Like you have to like change.
But if I move on with 3 embryos, and I know that I'm lucky to have that. So like we got that. We worked so hard. We have them. I get like we have options right now, and I feel very lucky for that. Right. But if I then say and made the choice that I'm not going to do something with those embryos, that would be hard. That is a choice. If I put all 3 of them in my body over the next year and they all don't work, and then it's like, you know what, it's not on the cards. Or we spent all this money and we got the surrogate and like it didn't work, not on the cards. Like now I'm 41, I'm not going to do another retrieval. We're done. Like I tried, I did everything. Right. But if I walk away with what I have now after 5 years of trying to get this, then I'm making a choice. Like I'd rather the choice is made for me because of like whatever's decided, like
for you to make things happen and let things happen.
Yeah,
either by implanting or by having a surrogate. You're making things happen.
And if I walk away and I just like leave these embryos in the freezer or throw them away or donate them to science, like I've actually chosen not to do this instead of doing everything I could. I don't know. It's hard. I don't know how I feel. Like I'm confused.
I really, really struggle with the financial side of it. I really struggle with that because
so hard.
It's like people are like, let's start a GoFundMe page for you, and let's like, we'll all like, you know, we want to support you in this. I'm like, I can't ask anybody for a dime because my husband's very active on social media and posts photos of us all the time. So according to the Instagram world, we live a very lavish lifestyle. Like we're going, they don't know that my friend works for an entertainment company and gets us into the post-Emmy show. Right. Like they don't know that that's how we got in. They don't know that our vacation was just spent using miles
from your IVF, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah.
From your IVF.
From my IVF. Like they don't know that our trip was spent for miles, and I work in hospitality and get amazing hotel deals. Right. Like they don't know that we're not spending trillions of dollars to do this really great stuff. And so
you're just very savvy.
We're very savvy. And so it's like, I can't, like I struggle with every day, like going, well, if we really wanted this badly enough, all of our resources would go towards it. Right. Like, and
like you hear people say that. People will be like, I would do anything. I'll do anything for my baby to get this baby. And you're just like, I don't know if I'll do anything. Yeah. So like, and does it make me a bad person, or like, does it make me not know what I want?
Right. Or, it's like, and I don't really care what people think of me, but public opinion and like saying, you know, like people, that weighs on you a little bit. Like, you know, to think if I really wanted it badly enough, I would be doing everything in my power to make it happen. So it's like but at the same time, it's like, I want to live.
Yeah.
I want to experience life.
Yeah.
And I don't like you have to, like when I flipped that switch, I was like, fuck it, let's live our life and participate instead of sitting back and letting my body dictate all that.
Yeah, if I had to cancel something, you cancel it. Or
yeah.
if you skip a month, you skip a month. Like whatever.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like, like that shift in mentality makes me feel like, then do I really not want this? Like those are the
Yes.
struggles. You're just so self-conflicted at all times because you feel like
absolutely right.
you're either not doing enough or you're doing too much, and that balance of like, well, when is enough enough?
Yeah.
And
When is enough enough?
when is enough enough? Like if I exhaust all my resources, am I not putting enough in my resources? Am I not exhausting them? It's like,
And then by the way,
it's-
you're 40 and you're like, okay, so I got another good year or two in me on this thing.
yeah, exactly.
And that's it. So go.
How torturous.
it's
Torturous.
horrible.
It's every
Sounds
day. It's like you live with
torturous.
it every day.
every day. And then like you're reminded of it constantly.
Now, to play a bit
Yeah,
of
when
the-
everyone's walking in with their pregnant bellies
Yeah.
or posting their shit on Instagram or their children are this, and you're just like, you're constantly reminded of what you don't have. Although I'm sure people look at my life and think there's things that
Yeah.
they don't have that I do. So
Exactly.
it's like you have to.
You can't compare. I had to, a few years back, I was starting getting really bitter against someone I know, and they're close to me because it was like they would just get pregnant or they would get this and that. Like like luck would just kind of fall in their lap.
Mm-hmm.
But they also live a very different lifestyle than me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a very different lifestyle. And I was like, I was starting to really begrudge her and really feel bitter and like angry. Like, why does she get this and I don't?
Mm-hmm.
And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, you can't compare because I would never want a day in her life. Like
Right.
I'm very fortunate in my life. Like I am surrounded by love and I have all this. And she doesn't have that. Like people love her and she's surrounded by love, but it's like, her life has a lot more struggle to it. And
Right.
it was like we just live very different lives, and I was like, I can't compare, and
And it's easy to
and I
focus on the
can't
things
beat
you
myself
don't have
up.
and not the things that you do.
Exactly, and I was getting, and it was only making me angry. She was not affected by. Like
Sure.
she had no idea that I felt this way. She
Right.
still has no idea I felt this
Yeah.
way, but it was just festering and making me emotionally bitter and angry, and it was just tearing me apart, and it wasn't affecting anybody but me.
Right.
And I was like, why am I doing this to myself?
yeah.
It was just
Yeah. Struggle's real.
Yeah, that struggle's real, man.
The struggle is real.
Yeah.
You were gonna ask something,
I have two
sorry.
questions.
Mm-hmm.
They're totally different. One is, did this affect how you felt about abortion at all? I mean, I don't know how you...
Yes and no. So I've always been very pro-choice.
Yes.
Very pro-choice. Mm-hmm. And I was like, if you're not ready, you're not ready. It's up to you. And then now I'm like, that is not a form of birth control. And people who get pregnant and then just like they're having sex with their boyfriend or whatever, or the one night stand, and they get pregnant and they choose to have an abortion. I'm like, fuck you. Like it's your choice. I get it, but don't be irresponsible. Don't use this as birth control.
Right.
It makes me really, it's that bitterness and that judging and that
Well, you
comparing.
probably... I would imagine you would feel like, how dare you?
It is. It's like,
I'm struggling every day.
and people that have multiple abortions. I'm just like, get on the fucking pill.
Yeah.
There's so
Fertile
many
myrtle.
options.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like, oh, congratulations, you're getting pregnant all the time. Stop it.
You're an
it's like-
asshole.
yeah, it is.
You are an asshole.
It is. I
Yeah.
literally look at them like, and I see people with like 1 million kids. I'm like, you're dumb.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm just like, and my husband will be like, can we take one of those? He has that joke every time. Hey, could we oh wow, nice family. Could we steal one of your kids? And I'm like, you're dumb. I'm just like, I just hate them out of the gate. So
Has
how
it
about you?
changed how you feel?
No, I had an abortion when I was 22. So I've always been pro-choice. So I had a long-term boyfriend and did the stupid thing, which was we were on again, off again. And I went off the pill so that I wouldn't have sex with him. And then literally did
Lust got
the
you.
just the tip pull out thing and got pregnant
Oh my
at
goodness.
22 and had an abortion. And, so for me, it's I don't know, that choice, my life would have been drastically different
Of
if I had that
course, yeah.
child.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's what drives it is
Right.
that was the right choice for me then. And I don't regret it. It is
And that's not
crazy
that,
to
you're not
think.
the person I'm talking. I don't know who I'm talking about. It's those people
No,
that
I know
will
what you're
use,
saying.
for
I know what you're
multiple,
saying. I mean, now
they're
I'd be
going to-
it'd be crazy if I had a friend my age where I'd be
Right.
oh, fucking 40-year-old woman, using using an abortion as her birth control,
Yeah.
uncool.
Right.
Yeah. But, I did something stupid when I was really young and I had to correct it. And I was just starting my career. I lived in New York City. lived there for 10 years. It was the very beginning of my time there. And I just fucked up and I got myself into a bad situation and it was horrible.
Right.
It was devastating to have to go through. And I still think about it where I'm okay, I don't even remember. I must have been maybe 2002. So I'd have a what? I don't even know. So you think about that. I'd have a kid that's like in college now. I don't even know.
Had I been in your situation in 22,
You've
I would
been
100%
17,
had an abortion. Like I would 100% done the exact same thing.
So that is more like because of my experience,
Right.
That drives the way I think about it more so than anything else. Just
Right.
because the fact that so I'm like, you know, crazy pro, you know, Planned Parenthood, which I had an abortion at Planned Parenthood. So,
Right.
you know, to me, like I donate all my money there, like
Yeah,
at the end
I
of the
do
year,
too.
like it's, you know, I'm very pro choice. And to me, I had to have that choice in order to have the life I have now.
Right.
So it's a bit of a loaded question for me just because of my life experience.
No. But
yeah.
I think it's a hard question to answer. It's so
Yeah.
controversial.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I mean, it just to have the perspective of not being able to have a kid. I don't know how that would affect you
Right.
because I mean, I would have had an abortion in your situation too.
Yeah.
But I wasn't in that situation and I had kids effortlessly. So
Yeah.
like the asshole, I probably would have had 8 if
Right.
I had not been like, okay, I don't know
Take
why.
the pill.
Right.
Put it on the
I was like, I don't even want the pill. Give me something stronger.
Yeah.
Because the super
that girl a
sperm I'm living
dental
with.
dam.
Right? Something. Just brick it up down there.
Yeah.
And for me, it's more angering because I'm like, God damn it, I've been pregnant naturally twice. Like my body could do this.
Can do
I was
it.
robbed of this experience by
Right.
this, you know, doctor who was negligent and couldn't have saved the child,
Right.
but like just made a bad choice. Had we have gotten that kid out earlier, like maybe my body wouldn't be in this position right now. Like, I don't know.
We need
Right.
to do
So-
a series of bad Yelp reviews on that person.
I know. I was like, I asked my fertility doctors. I was like, can I? Because one of the uterus doctor does a lot of. He's what's it called? An expert witness in a lot of cases of malpractice. And so I asked him, can I sue this doctor? Like, because I talked him through the whole thing, and he was like, in order to win a malpractice case, first of all, it's in court for 5 to 10 years. You have to live with it. And second, 51 out of 100 doctors would have to say they would do it differently. And he's like,
Wow.
and in your case, he was absolutely irresponsible, and I would have never sent you home. I would have checked you. I would have made you come back. I would have done all these things differently. But he's like, I don't think 51 out of 100 doctors would tell you that they would have done it differently.
Ugh.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, what am I suing for? I'm
Yes.
suing for like the money I'm going to spend on a surrogate,
Right.
and the money I've spent on IVF, and like the 5 years of my life that I've lost to this process.
Is there like a certified board or something you could just file a complaint?
I don't, if maybe statute, it's been like 5 years. It's been forever now. I don't even know. But yeah, I thought about Yelp review, but then I'm like, I'm going to be that crazy person with like, you know, when you read those, sometimes you're like, oh, that woman's crazy. Like,
He turned my uterus inside out.
He did.
And had to put it back in.
That's right.
It was insane.
That's right.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
On Yelp.
Yeah, on Yelp. But like a doctor who robs someone of their ability
No,
to have a
it's horrible.
child, you're like,
that's-
what the fuck?
That's pretty
No, that
bad.
is
Yeah,
horrible.
it sucks.
That is horrible. Now I
Yeah.
forgot my second
I
question.
know. What is your second question?
Sorry, that got
Yeah.
dark.
No, it didn't go dark. And no, I went dark first, and because I was going to save the other one for not so dark, but now I don't remember what it was.
to
Shit,
get
I
it
should
back.
have written it down.
You're gonna go darker than abortion. Here we go.
I know, right? Well, I can't remember. I have no idea what I was going to ask. Bummer.
We're gonna have to have an addendum to this podcast.
I know.
Yeah.
As soon as we turn everything
part
off, I'll
B.
go. I remember.
Yeah,
It
Part
was this.
B. Yeah.
Well, anything else you'd like to say?
Well, I don't know. For both Jen and I, like, I know we like negotiate with people for a living.
Yeah.
Like on a daily basis, we interact and negotiate with people on, you know, what they plan on doing. And I think we both like to control situations and control things. And not having control over this is the hardest part. To
but
not,
you learn a lot about yourself
You
in that
do.
process and what your limits are.
Yeah. I think it's made me overall, I don't want to say a calmer person because I'm not, but actually I think
It
I am.
has, yeah.
I think it has. It's sort of
Things
allowed
roll
me to
off your
roll with the
back.
punches a little more.
Yeah.
I remember my second question.
Yeah. Bring it on.
This one you may not like.
That's okay.
But I think it is a question that people
Drink
who
some wine before
Yeah.
this
You
question comes out.
Cheers.
well, you know, something else you probably don't know about me. I'm from a really small town in rural Georgia, and people in rural communities think very differently than people in LA, and people in urban communities and progressive thinking communities, and all types of people listen to my podcast. I am not liberal. I am not conservative. I lately am not Republican or Democratic. I am very moderate and I think very middle. And I always try to think, what would someone from my hometown think? And what would they ask? And it's not necessarily what I think, but I think that's an important perspective that's never shown in a in a compassionate need to understand perspective. You know, a lot of times people from here, I think I go back home and I watch my cousins talk to each other and I go, oh my God, I hope you never come visit me, because all of my friends will run screaming from my house because they do not understand. They don't understand where you're coming from.
Vice versa, that'll be embarrassing for them to have to hear the way that we all talk.
They don't understand how we talk. A lot of times they really don't get it. But I think it is part of what's wrong with our country today
absolutely.
is that people don't say, how can we find common ground and how can I not be offended by someone who doesn't understand or have the same value system I do? Most people in my hometown are pro-life. Most people would never think abortion was a viable option for anything other than the mother's going to die, you know, and maybe not even for that, but I'm not sure. But for some people, I think the question would be, do you ever think to yourself, you know, I could have it so much worse. This is really indulgent, or this is really selfish of me. Do you ever think like that? I don't think myself that this is indulgent or selfish at all. I think this is a very hard road. But I think some people listening may think, oh, these privileged white girls, they're just, you know, blowing all this money and there's people dying of cancer and they could use that money for this or that. What do you think about that? What would you say to someone who may say something like that?
I'd say they're right.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I think of this all the time. I used to say all the time growing up when I was stupid and didn't know any better. I used to say, you know, there's a reason that like there's a survival of the fittest. Like Darwin made a point. Like there's a reason, like if you can't have kids, maybe that's something, maybe you shouldn't be procreating.
I think people from my hometown would probably say that.
And I would
this
say
is
that,
not God's path for you.
And
you know what I mean?
And I'm not a religious person.
Right.
And it wasn't like about this is God's path. I'd be like, well, maybe your DNA is just not meant to procreate. Maybe you're not meant to continue. Like I would say that like more to get a laugh. Like maybe like, oh, this person shouldn't have kids. You know, maybe they're not, you know. And I feel like sometimes I feel like that's karma coming back at me for like having that weird kind of point of view. And it's like, it's not, but it's like, I feel like, you know, you put it out in the universe, it's going to come back, you know, kind of thing. And which again, your audience could be like, what is this girl talking about? And it is self-indulgent and it is privileged, but I feel like it's your culture and where you're from. So like if I was, you know, from X town in Georgia, rural Georgia, and this is the culture and the life I grew up with, and everyone there was like, well, you know, you don't have kids or you don't have this, and this is how it is, and that's all you know,
right?
Then it's easier to swallow that pill.
Right.
It's easier to go along with it. Here, we have all these resources.
Yes.
And people have their 2 cents and come at you like, you can do all of these things. Now that you're armed with that knowledge, then you need to do, it's like, if you have the option to do something.
It's hard to put the knowledge
You
aside.
can't put
once
it back.
You have it.
You can't put the genie back in the bottle.
I agree with you.
Once it's out there and you know it, you're like, well, now I can run with it.
Right.
If this wasn't an option where I was living or not a practice daily thing, and it wasn't that big of a deal, you know, then maybe I'd be content with whatever life I was living.
Right.
But I also think that, and I totally agree with what you're saying. And I'm like, I feel totally privileged that we've been able to do any of this, and that, you know, I live here so that I can make money, and that I work really hard. Like I've had no handouts in my life, like, but I work and I can do this because I work. Right. But I think about someone who may be struggling with infertility and can't afford this.
Right.
And like, that is it's like it is a thing of privilege. Like I look at around my doctor's office, and you know, I see the type of people that are in there, like they're all people with privilege. And then I see the surrogates, and I think there's a class difference, not because I believe that there's a class difference, but people who are, you know, lending their bodies to carry a child for someone else are doing it because A, they're saints, and B, they get paid to do it. They get paid $50,000 to do that. And that could be their salary for the entire year.
Egg donors make $10,000 minimum.
Yeah. Right. So it's like, and I look at that and I'm like, you know, I'm almost embarrassed by my privilege in it. And it's really hard. And it's hard to think like my sister, who lives in Madison, Wisconsin, is struggling as well. She's 35. And she is basically like taking her entire life savings, and she's going to do 1 round of IVF, and she's just starting with this now. And like, she's lucky too, but like, you know, there's plenty of other people who can't and you just can't have a child then. So you just
Right.
don't get to, that's sad. So sad too. Like, we're lucky that we have these resources. And I think like the one thing that pushes me forward is like, you know, I've got this thing I'm working through, which is this like connection I'm seeking to my father. And I'd like to see what that looks like. And if at the end of the day that doesn't happen, then I'm going to have to grieve that and move on.
Right.
You know, and just for the record, for, you know, anyone who's listening, and also Sarah too, like, in a crazy weird kismet situation, like my dad had taken out a really big life insurance policy before he died, and he passed away at 28, and there was a tiny little trust fund that got set up for me for my life, and it paid for my college, my sister and brother to take out loans to go to school, and there's exactly $120,000 left in his life insurance policy, which is exactly what I need for a surrogate. And so it's like, is that a gift for my father, or
That's
it's dark,
crazy.
it's deep. I mean, it's crazy
crazy.
shit. No, it's crazy.
That's
and I'm telling you, all
crazy.
these years, like, that's all that's been left in my name from my dad. And I'm like, oh, I rent my house here. I'm like, maybe one day we'll use that for a down payment on a house. And, you know, obviously in LA, you need more than that for a down
Yeah.
payment on a house. So it's been sitting there since college. I haven't touched a penny of it since I graduated from college. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to use that money for, but I've been just hanging on to it.
Right.
And now I'm like, you know,
Oh,
I
this
mean,
is
I can't
happening for
afford
you.
$130,000 to pay someone to have my child. Like,
Right.
and by the way, there's no guarantees that any of these embryos are going to take in a surrogate. So I don't even know when I'm going to wind up. But the fact that there's this like little bucket of money there, like that affords me
speaks
the ability
volumes.
to do this, and that the reason I want this so badly is for that connection, and it's all kind of tied into itself. Like, that's where I'm at. So like, in
Right.
terms of trying to make people understand who maybe don't live our lives or have access to the things that we have access to, like, you know, yes, I could understand if you just heard my story without all this other stuff, that it might sound frivolous, or it might sound like, you know, privileged or whatever. But what guides me and what drives me in the process, and all these resources that I have that are tied to it, are like, you know, I would think most people could understand that connection that I'm seeking,
Yes.
and that it all seems to be tied in for me.
Well, I think what they could understand is it's all driven by love,
Yeah.
Right.
by a want and a need to love, to give love and to receive love, but really to give love, because being a parent is very selfless. And you're right. I'm glad you brought the point up about the culture, because it is a difference in culture.
Yeah, and we don't have a pot of gold we're pulling from. This is our life savings.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
every penny we've worked endlessly, we've earned. Like, we've been working our asses off since we were 16, both of us
Yeah.
individually. Like, every penny we've saved has gone towards this. So it's not like
Right.
we are these like privileged. We're normal people living in a fancy town and putting all of our resources into this.
But I think it's
But the
important
culture.
for people to hear that also, is that someone else who may also be in your position. Like, I think people think all the fancy people in LA just drive Rolls Royces, and you know,
there are those
everything's
people.
plated in gold.
Yeah.
No.
And there are those people, but most people I know are not those people.
No.
They all work really hard, and even though the amount on their paycheck sounds like a lot in rural Georgia, they're really kind of upper middle class in this town. They're
Right.
not
Upper middle class at best, middle class, like, or lower middle
yeah.
class.
right. And
We live in a rent control apartment. I mean, we make good money.
Us too,
yes,
yeah.
it's an interesting perception of people that don't live here,
Yeah.
of who the people that live here are. So I thank you for letting me ask that question, because
course, yeah.
it's not. I don't ever want anyone to be offended, the people here or the people listening.
Yeah.
Like, there's value in every culture,
Of course.
and there's never going to be a sameness across the board for everything, for your beliefs and your way of living. And I think for a lot of people in this country, it's hard to wrap their head around why this is important.
And I think,
Right.
actually, just not to cut you off, but I feel like it's less, this is ultimately not about your geography and where you live, or the
No,
money you make.
you're right.
Or your religious beliefs, or social values, or anything. It's just a desire and a want for something that you can't have.
Right.
And it can be anything. And for us, it's a family.
Right.
And for someone else listening to this, they can be listening and going, and they can be living in rural Georgia and be like, oh man, I just really want to be in a relationship.
Right.
Or, like, there's something, anytime you want to achieve something, it's not easy to obtain, then that's the base of the conversation.
Right.
However you go about to get it, if you're on farmersonly.com if that's
Right.
your bread, if that's your interest. It's like that's the common ground, and that's what we have to see, not all this extra treatment and doctors and expenses
Right.
and the extravagance of the whole thing. It's just like, what are you willing to do to get what you want?
I agree
This
with
is
you.
like your, like one of the biggest, probably the biggest thing that a woman can do or have in their entire lifetime is to be a mother.
Yeah.
And there's so many ways that can happen, and it could be yours, it could be not yours, whatever it is.
Right.
But like that's the biggie. And so to grapple with, can I be a mother? Why can't I be a mother? Why can't I be a parent? Like all these things, it's like, that's purely what this is about. And then,
Right.
there's these resources on top of it. And,
Right.
we could walk away from this and have spent all this money and still not have a family. And that's just a
Right.
big thing. I think everyone in this country can appreciate what it's like to, want to have a family or get to have a family, and what it's like to be a parent, and what it's like to be a child to someone, and all of those things. And like, when you strip down all of this stuff, like that's what's left. Like that's what the goal is in this thing. And to me, it's like there's no red or blue on that, right?
I agree. And I think that privilege has become a bad word. And privilege is not necessarily bad. You just said you donated all your money to a nonprofit organization. You would donate, not all of your money.
Not all my money.
But
Sorry,
no,
that would
not
be
all your
false.
money. But you know what I mean.
I sound like a total saint
You
right
said
now.
at the end of the
Yeah.
year, you donate to this organization. People of privilege have the ability to do things like that as well. That people who don't have as much privilege can't maybe do that as much. And I think that gets lost in the equation too. So when you are someone who has some semblance of privilege, or perceived privilege at least, it is your money to do whatever you want with. And the only message should be, good for you, best of luck. I hope you get that which you are seeking, because you deserve it, because every person deserves to get what they're seeking, as long as it's not for evil.
Right.
Thank you
But
for
for
letting
good.
us talk about it. So
Yeah.
thanks for having us.
Let me tell you something. I'm so glad you did, because I can't tell you how many people have asked me to talk about fertility. So many people from all over, and I'm sure all different socioeconomic and cultural backgrounds. I don't know what they are when they send me an email. So, thank you very much. And thank you for being so willing and open.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It was nice to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's always good to just, get it out when you can.
Yeah, it's cathartic. I just wouldn't want anyone who's listening to feel like if they can't spend this kind of money that they're at like a dead end. And so I don't know. It's a struggle no matter how you look at it. And, we've all had our versions of that struggle, and all of that is valid. And, I do feel lucky that we've been able to try all the things that we've been able to try. And, there's plenty of other things for people to do and try.
Yeah.
This has just been our experience. So
That, and people I'm sure could learn, like your mini
Mini IVF. I mean, there's diet changes. There's things you can do that
Acupuncture,
have proven.
acupressure.
Just eat pineapple a day. Pineapple a day.
Pineapple
is
a
the takeaway.
day, and stand on your head after
do
you have sex.
everything. You'll be
That's the
pregnant
takeaway.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, even those simple things, someone may hear it and go, you know what, I will eat a pineapple a day.
Yeah.
And I will invert my pelvis after I have sex.
Yeah.
Or I will have my husband jack off in a cup and stick a
Yeah.
turkey baster
Yeah.
up me, and we all
we'll do our own IUIs
Put
for
on
free.
a YouTube
Totally.
CD.
Yeah.
Listen to some
Totally.
music.
Totally.
Get in
But
the mood.
the key is not to feel alone, to not feel alone.
Yeah.
If you're having problems, you are not alone. So
That's right.
Thank you for not letting some people not feel alone.
Thank you.
you.
Yay!
We did it!
Let's go drink.
Let's go drink.
I've been drinking.